Naruto the Iceman of the Senju clan. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26. Save her from embarrassment. It was still the same training ground. It was approaching September and the weather was already incredibly hot. However, in a corner of the training ground, there was an ice house standing unexpectedly. In fact, calling it a house is not entirely correct, because this house does not have any entrances or windows, and is square and flat. However, the ground is ordinary, and there is only a little girl wearing purple short sleeves inside, standing quietly. Are you ready? Suddenly a familiar voice came from outside. Okay, let's start. The girl's eyes were firm, and her voice was clear and crisp. There is no doubt that this is a spring. Now a whole summer has passed since she started to receive special training from Senju Mayuki. Now she is obviously taller, and her exposed skin is not as delicate and fair as before, but has a tight and wheat-colored skin. Needless to say, she had a very fulfilling summer vacation, but correspondingly, her gains were greater than expected. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Here it comes. As the sound fell, many ice bullets the size of glass balls suddenly appeared on the surrounding walls without warning, and then they were launched towards where Quan was standing. Whoosh whoosh, countless ice bullets were shot like bullets. However, faced with such a situation that was difficult for ordinary people to resist, Quan at this time could just easily dodge to the left or right, or squat and jump to avoid it easily. Wave after wave of ice bullet attacks. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Countless ice bullets were fired, but none of them could hit her body. Oh, can you do this already? Senju Mayuki's slightly surprised voice came from outside. Then be careful next time. I'm going to increase the difficulty. Quan didn't say a word, but he immediately became 10,000 more vigilant mentally. Although it won't kill you, it will still hurt if you get hit by that thing. Swish swish, the speed at which ice bombs appear gradually begins to accelerate, and the location where they appear is no longer limited to more than 3 meters from the surrounding walls. In addition to the ground, ice bombs may appear wherever there are ice walls. Sure enough, this change instantly doubled the pressure of the spring geometrically. It's not enough just to be fast. I can barely escape with my super fast reaction and speed, but what to do with those who are out of sight? Does this guy think my eyes are 360 degrees wide? Exclamation mark. However, she could only flash this sentence through her mind once, because now if she reacts a little slower, she may be beaten into a sieve by an unknown number of ice bombs. Grit your teeth. In my heart, I was angry that Senju Mayuki suddenly raised the difficulty to such a high level, but I also felt proud that I was unwilling to give up easily. In this case, the chakra was mobilized instantly, and the eyelids closed and opened again instantly. Right around eye. In an instant, the ice bullets shot from all directions seemed to suddenly turn into slow motion in the spring, and the trajectory of each one was so clear. HMPH, so what if there are too many? As soon as the Sharingan came out, the situation immediately improved a lot. With the dynamic vision of the Sharingan, Izumi can even dodge and avoid this denser barrage of ice bullets with less movement and physical strength than before. Senju Mayuki, who had been paying attention to her outside the door, started counting the moment she opened her Sharingan. 1, 2, 3.5, 10, until, yeah. Oh, stop, stop, stop. Although Senju Mayuki cancelled the output of ice bullets as soon as she screamed, there were still many ice bullets that had been given initial velocity that were difficult to control. So, ding 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 ding, it was like a sudden heavy rain. Quan, who was in pain, could only stretch out his arms to protect his little face, and then heard a clanging sound coming from around him. Seeing that something was wrong, Senju Shinzuki immediately used his power to make an ice bell for her. Otherwise, if she were hit by so many ice beads the size of glass bullets, she would probably eat the cute girl's seat today. Kaka-cha-cha-cha, the ice walls around and on the top began to rapidly break and separate until they finally shattered into almost ice powder, and then Senju Shinetsu's voice was heard. Not bad. The opening time of the Sharingan can actually be maintained to 25 seconds. It has made great progress and deserves praise while speaking. The ice bell that surrounded the spring also began to break apart quickly, but this time it only broke into a few pieces. After the spring came out, he stopped caring about it. The ice bell was not big anyway. Just lighting up the ice will not have any impact on the training ground. Of course Quan was still rubbing the area where he was hit by those ice bullets. When he heard his flattery, he immediately felt that the pain on his body was nothing, and he even felt a little proud. Otherwise, why do you think I work so hard here and take marbles every day? Yes, every day. Ever since Quan followed his own will and showed his last secret to Senju Mayuki, he formulated such a training content for her. Alas, when I talk about this secret spring, I can't help but feel depressed. Originally, she thought that Zero Zenai would definitely have a lot of questions when he saw the Sharingan for the first time, so she deliberately imagined various questions that he might ask the night before, such as the history of the Sharingan, the causes of its formation, abilities, characteristics, etc., so as not to be unable to answer when the time comes. As a result, after she showed him the Sharingan with full of trepidation, the guy was actually surprised when he saw it for the first time. After that, he just nodded thoughtfully a few times and then asked, when did it appear and then disappear? Just, gone. Hateful. Then why do I stay up late at night by myself like a crazy woman, thinking about questions and memorizing answers? In the end, you just said oh, and it was gone. That guy's absolutely disgusting. Seeing that Izumi suddenly turned into that gnashing of teeth hating someone, Senju Mayuki couldn't help but sigh secretly. I have seen her like this several times recently. He was very sure that he had not provoked a cute girl recently, so this resentment was not against him. As for who it is aimed at, the two of them are so familiar, and she hasn't mentioned it to herself for so long, which means that she is either embarrassed to speak, or it is not convenient for a boy like herself to get involved, so it is best for her to pretend that she has not seen it, so as not to let her embarrassing school is about to start. How are you practicing your shadow clone technique? In fact, the two of them were together basically every day. They wished Bakun could spend more time with her mother. How could he not know about her situation? He just wanted to find a topic to save her from embarrassment. It's still the same as expected. The mention of this spring immediately diverted attention, but the mood also dropped significantly. You can still only separate one at most. If there is even one more, you won't even be able to keep the first one. Senju Mayuki thought for a while and felt that this matter was really a problem, so she said, in this way, we will not practice physical skills in the past few days before school starts. We will first solve the problem of your shadow clone. At the very least, we need to create another one with one going to school and one practicing ninjutsu. The main body can concentrate on continuing physical training with himself. Chapter 27. Right. As for what chakra is, I believe you have already read a lot about this issue, whether in textbooks or in the library, so there is no need for me to elaborate. For Izumi's second shadow clone, Senju Mayuki showed extraordinary concern. He cancelled the physical training the next day and postponed all his own affairs. He was fully prepared to do it and help her solve this problem before school starts. But learning to extract chakra, or even learning the shadow clone technique, does not mean that you can use chakra flexibly and efficiently. In front of a stone wall in the training ground, he roughly described what Kakashi told Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. Is there such a thing as wasting chakra? Obviously this was the first time Quan heard this statement, and his eyes were suddenly filled with curiosity. Of course. Otherwise, if we are all ninjas, why would some people be out of breath after fighting for a few minutes, while others can persist for more than 10 minutes or even an hour and still have energy left? This is the difference, of course. What he talked about was definitely not as comprehensive and thorough as Kakashi, but Izumi was much smarter than Naruto at that time, so even though what he talked about was a bit hazy, she immediately jumped into it once he talked about climbing walls and trees. Got it. She had seen Senju Mayuki training like this before she entered the ninja school, but at the time she thought he was just doing it for fun, but she didn't expect that there was such a statement. Unlike Naruto and the others, Senju Mayuki did not directly ask Izumi to start climbing the tree, but instead started on a relatively flat stone wall. First use simple things to cultivate confidence, then use tree climbing to make it more difficult, and finally use treading water. To finish, first gather the chakra on the soles of your feet, and then control the amount to just enough to adsorb yourself to the surface of the stone wall. In order to make it clearer and easier to understand, Senju Mayuki directly uses himself as a teaching material, fully explaining each step. The amount of chakra required is very subtle. If it is too much, it will pop out. If it is too little, the adsorption force will not be enough. And the soles of the feet are the most difficult place to gather chakra in the human body. Using the extracted chakra in the necessary amount only where necessary is the ultimate goal of this training. As long as you master this skill skillfully, not to mention how much energy it will save you in battle in the future, at least you should be able to create a second shadow clone without increasing the total amount of chakra. Already it is good. After hearing these words, Quan's fighting spirit was instantly ignited. Not even willing to wait for a second, he ran directly to the stone wall next to him and started. First gather a certain amount of chakra on the soles of your feet. What I have to say is that under the nanny-style teaching of Senju Mayuki, who was almost crushed to pieces, Izumi, who was already extremely smart, quickly mastered the essentials. Although the learning progress is not as good as that of Sakura at that time, Sakura was 12 years old at that time and Izumi is only 6 years old now, so the gap is understandable in this process. As a teacher and guide, Senju Mayuki must of course bear the responsibility of protection. For example, when Quan accidentally falls, you have to catch her accurately to prevent her from falling to the ground. Right, for another example, when she fell into the water, even though it was summer and both of them were still children, we had to suck all the water from her body quickly to prevent her from catching a cold. Right, another example is that when she succeeds, you should quietly play the role of a pillow and share the joy with her. Right. Shadow clone technique. Puff, two identical shadow clones appeared steadily beside Quan, without any sign of breaking down. Yay! Exclamation mark. I finally made it. Still in the training ground, after just over a day of hard work, Quan's chakra control accuracy has been greatly improved. Although the training of treading water is not yet able to send and receive freely, it is enough to separate the second unstable shadow clone. Hey. Looking at the two clones beside me, even with the cute girl's reserved personality, she couldn't help but have a proud smile on her face. After all, this is the first time she has experienced such an obvious improvement through her own efforts. Of course Senju Mayuki would not be stingy with her praise when she saw this, and directly extended her long lost thumbs up. Ding, then he waved his hand proudly. Let's go. To celebrate, I invite you to eat your favorite 3-color meatballs. Great. Because the amount of training has always been large, it has been a long time since Quan experienced such things as getting fat from eating too much, so when he heard that Zio Zenai wanted to treat him, he immediately agreed without hesitation. The expression on his face looked even happier than the shadow clone's success. Ho, that's of course, although it's not very expensive, it's sweeter if you give it to others as a treat. Harmy melon, apple, little handsome boy, little beautiful girl, would you like some fresh fruits? Spinach, greens, cabbage. Big opening bonus, you can get lucky draw qualifications when you enter fruit stalls, vegetable stalls, newly opened cake shops, as well as various beauty salons, cosmetics, snacks, and dessert shops. Along the way, I passed through various commercial and vegetable streets, and occasionally said hello to the uncles and aunts I knew. The tense and depressing atmosphere at the beginning of the war can no longer be seen in these ordinary people. Obviously such a long time has passed, and I have only heard rumors of war, but there has been no real impact on my life. Therefore, the merchants and residents in the village have gradually, or deliberately, made this matter known to the public. Forgot. Boss, please have 2 meatballs. Children in the developmental stage grow very fast, and now the 2 of them can sit at the table and eat. So Senju Mayuki and Izumi found a table to sit down together and chatted about some wild topics while eating. Occasionally I raise my head to look at the customers who are coming in or passing by. When I feel relaxed, I feel that it is good to occasionally be lazy during the intense training. Speaking of which, this meatball shop is really a major feature of Konoha Village. I saw several familiar characters in just a moment. The first thing I noticed was a female ninja with a pair of ruby eyes. With such obvious features, who else could it be but Konoha Mayuki? Such a blatant gaze certainly aroused Hong's vigilance, but she immediately relaxed after seeing the two children, and even smiled at them, and then left with the meatballs she bought. The second one is a male ninja who always holds a senbon in his mouth. This should be the examiner Shiranujinma in the Chunin exam. Behind him is the guy with a piece of cloth hanging from his nose. I just can't remember his name at the moment, but he also appears in the picture. We even saw Itachi behind us, but after hearing their greetings, the guy just nodded and left without saying a word. This made Senju Mayuki couldn't help but curse. This guy must have been jealous, because he saw the cute girl spending the whole day with him. Right. The only pity is that, until I finished eating and left, I didn't see Materashi Red S. Bean, who is said to love eating 3-color meatballs the most. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Graduation Nomination. This year, 3 students were nominated to graduate early. This incident caused a sensation in the entire education department and Konoha's top brass. During a certain decision-making meeting, several high-level officials and record officers of Konohagakure were sitting at a table. Standing in front of the table were Itachi's teacher Funade Koku and Senju Mayuki's teacher Feng Bun. All come to nominate their students for graduation. Not only Uchiha Itachi, but also the two of them. Looking at the 3 pieces of information in front of him, Sande's expression was a bit elusive and subtle. He was not surprised that Uchiha Itachi's name would appear here. He just didn't expect that Mr. Feng Bun would also nominate his students, and there were 2 at once. Looking at Senju Mayuki's obviously still very young face in the information, the 3rd generation couldn't help but think of all the things that happened since he decided to train him, not to mention academic performance. Various tests are also at your fingertips, but at that time, his performance could only be said to be good, and it was far from being as amazing as Itachi's. When did the change begin? Thinking like this, a piece of paper, or a report, subconsciously appeared in Sande's mind. As long as the war continues, there will never be clear skies above their heads. This is a social practice report by Senju Mayuki. The content of the report is very simple. There is only one line, but related to the location of his social practice. Sande felt that this child really was the kind of future he had been looking forward to. I've only been in school for half a year. Can I develop a deep enough bond with my classmates? So his real thought was never that Senju Manzuki was not enough to graduate, but that he was worried that the time was too short for him to have enough contact with the people around him. Fortunately, Mr. Feng Bun's nominees this time include Izumi Uchiha. Because of Senju Mayuki, the 3rd generation has been paying attention to her from the beginning, knowing that she is also a diligent, studious, and kind-hearted child. It's not impossible if she is always with you and Senju and Uchiha. Thinking of some possibility, the 3rd generation even had some slight fluctuations in his heart. If Senju and Uchiha can unite in his hands, it will definitely be a feat that can be written into the history of the village for Konoha Village. Especially now when there seems to be some bad signs within Uchiha, the significance of this matter suddenly seems even more extraordinary. Not only was last year's graduation exam question about the art of cloning, these students have also mastered the art of shadow cloning. Seeing that Hokage-sama remained silent, the 2 teachers couldn't help but feel a little anxious. After looking at each other, Funade Koku Sensei took the initiative to speak, and Feng Bun Sensei immediately followed. Not just the first year program, but everything else is excellent as well. In fact, I have given them all the teaching materials and training content for the upper grades, and the results are still the same. There is no difficulty for them, so I think there is no point in keeping them in the ninja school anymore. I'm ashamed to say that, as a teacher, I didn't even notice that since when the students they taught in school were shadow clones instead of their true bodies. Me too. Funade Koku Sensei also lowered his head in shame when he heard this. But they are only in the first grade. The third generation looked like he didn't want to let go yet. But isn't this better? It's not unprecedented. Danzo, who had been silent next to him, suddenly spoke. The third generation seemed to have expected it and was not surprised. He just said softly, "After all, we are not from the same era." Danzo glanced at him and did not continue to argue with him or for him. It was not a direct rebuttal but an argument. He just looked at the two teachers in the field and asked lightly, "Do you all think your students are geniuses?" Yes. Both teachers answered this question decisively without any hesitation. Funade Koku Sensei even gave a plausible assurance. "In all my years of teaching, this is the first time I have seen such outstanding students." The third generation lowered his head and seemed to think about it seriously. He certainly knew what Danzo wanted to express. "Because they are geniuses, I'm graduating for them." Okay. Alright. After a while, he opened his eyes again, nodded firmly and said, "If their parents or guardians agree, then let them graduate with this class of graduates." When the two teachers heard this, they nodded excitedly. "Thank you, Hokage-sama. We will contact their parents as soon as possible." The goal was achieved, but there was still no joy on Danzo's face. He just glanced at the information on the third generation's table, and his mind was constantly recalling the third generation's performance and subtle expressions throughout the meeting. Language, expressions, actions, habits. After decades of getting along, any object may become a prop for the battle between two old friends. The two of them also have a tacit understanding of each other. After all, fight with the sky, fight with the earth. Fight with old friends. It's endless fun. The next day, Nonoi was suddenly summoned by the third Hokage. In the Hokage's office, the two of them had a chat about Senju Mayuki for more than an hour. All in all, Nonoi expressed his absolute understanding and support for the early graduation that was proposed by the teachers and supported by Hokage-sama. After all, she initially proposed letting him go to a ninja school just to supplement his resume. Now that she has the endorsement of the class teacher and the third Hokage, she believes this is enough. It was solved here. The third Hokage on the Uchiha side did not directly summon him at the Hokage building. Instead, he personally brought a piece of information to the current Uchiha clan leader, Uchiha Fugaku. "Hokage-sama, I have received a notice from the school. I originally planned to go to the ninja school tomorrow. What do you think?" Nowadays, the dissatisfaction in the clan is getting higher and higher. Even as the clan leader, he feels a little constrained, no matter what he does. Therefore, it is really incredible that Lord Hokage came to visit at this time. The Anbu directly under the Hokage monitored the entire village, and he didn't believe that the Hokage didn't know about those bad noises. "Fugaku, don't be nervous. In the home of the Uchiha clan leader, the third generation old man is more like a master." Fortunately, he didn't have to worry too much. After asking Uchiha Fugaku to sit down, he said straight to the point, "I have heard a little about Uchiha. To be honest, you have been quite troubled recently." Hearing what the Hokage said, Uchiha Fugaku felt dull for a moment and didn't know what to say. He just sighed slightly, lowered his head and said, "Thank you, Hokage-sama, for taking your trouble. Don't worry, I will definitely handle this matter." However, after hearing his words, Sande just smiled and shook his head and then handed over the information he had brought. "Actually, I have been thinking about how to solve it recently, and now I have an answer, so I just want to hear your opinion." Uchiha Fugaku took the information with some doubts, but he didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he opened it directly at the third generation signal. Name, Uchiha Izumi. This is? Uchiha Fugaku's eyes were a little surprised. Isn't this the girl who came to play with her son before? Does the answer Mr. Hokage said have anything to do with her? However, the Hokage didn't say anything, so he continued to read one item at a time. Excellent performance in class, excellent test scores. Until the end, the various excellent comments made him almost think that he was reading Itachi's information. I didn't expect that this girl who was the same age as Itachi would be so outstanding. No wonder. No wonder 3 students were nominated for early graduation this time, including that little guy from the Thousand Hands clan. Haha. 2 of the 3 students are Uchiha. Why do you Senju compare with us Uchiha? Although it was a bit disrespectful to desert in front of Lord Hokage, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help but feel a little proud when he thought of this. Hehe. The 3rd generation seemed to see something, but it seemed like there was nothing at all. He just used his eyes to signal Uchiha Fugaku to look at the next picture. Social practice report. The content of the report is also very simple. It would be great if there were no wars in the world. They wouldn't have to cry alone when they are bullied. This is? He only then did Sunday smile and roughly explain the process of sending warmth. Not only that, but Izumi Uchiha also told him everything from the first time he came into contact with Senju Mayuki to his subsequent change in attitude towards training. How about it? The last 3 generations looked at Uchiha Fugaku with a smile. The first pair of Senju and Uchiha in history to come together completely spontaneously without any external intervention. Aren't you curious about what kind of chemical changes they will bring to the village and to the Uchiha? Chapter 29 named Itachi. Although it may be a little late to ask at this time, how are you doing at school? Uchiha Shisu, a boy with a handsome face and big eyes, is a few years older than Itachi. He has a very gentle personality and is Itachi's only friend. At this time, he was wiping the sweat from his forehead with a towel while talking to Itachi. Itachi followed him, breathing hotly and shaking his shoulders up and down. Their current location is in a park in the new Uchiha clan area. The new clan land is indeed further away from the center of Konoha, but it just happens to wrap up the Nanga Shrine, which has a deep connection with the clan. More importantly, because it is the outskirts of the village, it has a rich natural environment and a large area. It's much bigger than before, so you don't have to worry about running out of space to practice. The 2 of them ran together for 4 hours. It was not an ordinary run, but running at full speed, maintaining the ultimate speed for 4 hours. If you have never experienced ninja training, you may not be able to last even 5 minutes. After hearing this question, Itachi took a breath, then glared at Shisu who looked more relaxed than him and said, "It's much more useful if I practice with you than going to school. After you entered the ninja school, you became more articulate. I haven't changed. I remember you were like this before. Although you were a child, you were very arrogant." After Shisu finished speaking, he smiled and put his hand on Itachi's head. "No one in your class can compare to you, right?" Itachi didn't answer. The face he saw when he looked back at the beginning of school flashed in his mind. That kid was also nominated for graduation this time. He should be pretty good too. However, such thoughts passed by in a flash and did not stay for long. "Have it?" Shisu asked in surprise. His hand was still pressing on Itachi's head, but Itachi shook his head. "We are not in the same class. I don't know what the grades of my classmates are, but I observed everyone's actions on the playground, and no one can make me admire." In other words, are you only looking at yourself? Maybe it's really what Shisu said. Itachi didn't pay attention to his classmates. Even Senju Mayuki, who was also very famous recently, he only knew such a person and didn't pay special attention to him. Where should I stand? What should I do to become a better ninja than anyone else? He has been thinking about this since he was a child, so he no longer has the extra time to think about other people's affairs. I can guarantee that there will be no one more powerful than you in school. Shisu rubbed his hands over Itachi's head and shook his head. "Stop." Itachi pushed Shisu's hand away. "As long as you are here, Uchiha's future will be stable." After Shisu finished speaking, he smiled, but there seemed to be a hint of loneliness hidden in it. At night, Itachi lay in bed, listening to the healthy breathing of his cute little brother sleeping next to him. It felt like a long time had passed since I moved to the new clan area, and I was already used to seeing the ceiling above my bed. Opposite the dormitory, where he and his brother slept, was the dining table, where the family gathered together to eat. He could hear slight movements, and knew that his father and mother should be there now. Itachi is indeed very powerful, even the third Hokage. From across the closed paper sliding door, the mother's voice came. They seemed to think that the child had fallen asleep, so they did not keep the voice down. Itachi stared at the ceiling drowsily, listening to his brother's cute breathing, and listening to his parents' conversation. Well, Hokage-sama did talk to me a lot about Itachi and the clan. His father's voice was always as serious as ever, and it was rare to see him smile, which Itachi was used to. But Itachi's excellence is indeed worthy of recognition. Even the Hokage-sama praised him, saying that this child can think like a Hokage at such a young age. After a pause, Itachi seemed to hear a rare smile from his father's voice. "You are indeed my son. Yeah, my father praised me, and my mother was very happy after hearing it." And Itachi, who was opposite him, suddenly felt inexplicably better. "Is it because you were praised by your father? Or is it because my parents are happy for me, so I will be happier?" Itachi couldn't help but stretched out his hand to tease his sleeping brother a few times. It seemed that he couldn't wait to do something to express the inexplicable emotions that suddenly appeared in his chest. "How is he at school? What do you think? Didn't Lord Hokage come to visit his home for his early graduation?" "I didn't say that," the father interrupted the mother. "I'm asking, does he have any friends?" Hearing this question, the gentle mother's voice became more hesitant. "Itachi doesn't really talk about friends." Itachi heard his father's deep voice, and it took a while before he heard him continue. He seemed to have pushed himself too hard, so he didn't even know how to make it easier for himself. This is because Itachi is different from other children. He has been very sensible since he was a child, but it's still too much for his age. The father's voice suddenly became slightly heavier. "He seems to be eager to become a ninja who can stand alone." Been seen through. Itachi's face felt a little warm. "Is it because I have been practicing ninjutsu with Shizu recently that my experienced father noticed it?" His serious attitude towards ninjutsu sometimes makes even me, a father, feel that I should learn from him. But if the thread is stretched too tight, it will become fragile and may break due to some pulling. "I'm very worried." "No problem," mother comforted father with a gentle voice. "Itachi is a gentle and considerate child. Just look at the way he coaxes Sasuke. Moreover, recently he looks up to Shizu like an older brother. They often practice together, and he is also a partner." Shushu Shizu. Zigo is indeed outstanding. Recently, Shizu had made a name for himself as a ninja, and was called Shunbo. Itachi also knew this. But he didn't expect that even the father of the clan leader would subconsciously say the name Shunshin when he heard Shizu's name. It's good to have older friends, but I hope he can chat with friends of the same age and learn a little about the feeling of happiness. Friends of the same age. I remember that there was always a beautiful little girl who came to see him, right? That little girl can definitely become a very good friend, right? Speaking of this mother, there was suddenly a hint of joking in her voice, and she even deliberately emphasized her tone when she mentioned the word friend. "You mean Uchiha Izumi?" The father didn't he know what he thought of? After repeating the name, he suddenly fell silent and said nothing more. The voice over there gradually faded away. Uchiha Spring. The face of the girl who always greeted him when they met appeared in Itachi's mind. "It's just that I've seen her less and less recently. I heard that she always stayed with the child from the Senju clan, and even this time they were nominated for early graduation. What's the point of talking to a girl? It's more comfortable to practice with Shizu." He muttered something in a low voice, and finally pinched his brother's face several times in a playful manner. Itachi finally closed his eyes with satisfaction, after teasing his cute brother, and pulling him impatiently several times. Chapter 30 Weapons. Konoha Village Ninja Tool Shop. After confirming that both of them passed early graduation, to be honest, Senju Mayuki was still a little happy. After all, this means that Izumi's efforts during this period have not been in vain, and for him, it can be regarded as changing a small period of history in the future on his own. So he was so happy that he took Kwan to the ninja shop, planning to give her a weapon as a celebration. Not to mention himself, with the Sharingan, his strength in spring body technique can be said to be almost the same every day, and it is indeed worth preparing a special weapon as soon as possible. Crossbow, spear, short sword, long sword, one-handed sword. In the ninja tool shop, Izumi was almost dazzled by the dazzling array of weapons. After discovering his talent in physical skills, Kwan now has an indescribable love for all kinds of weapons, and he even has to touch each one personally for a while before he is satisfied. The owner of the ninja shop just smiled smugly. As for the appearance of such older children in his shop, He didn't think it was anything strange. Because it's not like he has never seen geniuses younger than them. Thinking about the little guy with white hair back then. Boss, do you have chakra test strips? Unlike Izumi, who had an immersive experience, Senju Mayuki just stayed with her to enjoy the experience. After all, for him, the purpose of today was not as simple as buying a weapon. And to be honest, he really felt that there was no weapon in this room that he couldn't take his eyes away from once he looked at it. Well, that is to say, there is no eye edge. Of course, do you want one? Little brother, okay. I happened to see Quan coming over with a short sword about 30 centimeters in length, so he said to the boss, put it together with the weapon. Didn't Maya-chan choose her own weapon? Let's not worry about mine for now. Senju Mayuki shook her head. 3 daggers, 1 chakra test strips, a total of 4 teals. For your review. When I heard this price, my eyes widened in shock. What are chakra test strips? They are so expensive. Indeed. To be honest, even Senju Mayuki couldn't help but feel a twinge of pain at this price. He knew this thing was expensive, but he didn't expect it to be so expensive. However, I took it and looked at it and found that one copy was 10 sheets. Comparing the two, I felt that the price was acceptable. After all, it was made of special materials, and the cost was indeed not very low. You too, go slowly, welcome to come again next time. Until he left the house, Quan was still muttering that the test strip he bought was almost worth a new weapon. However, Senju Mayuki just mysteriously told her that she would know in a moment, and then the two of them went to the usual training ground together. Children who have new toys will definitely be tempted to try them out. Here, take this first. When they arrived at the training ground, Senju Mayuki grabbed Izumi, who immediately wanted to try a new weapon, and gave her a chakra test paper. She also took a copy in her hand. Inject chakra into it. Although Quan was puzzled, he was used to listening to him, so he didn't hesitate. He held the test paper between his 2 fingers with one hand, then closed his eyes, and began to extract chakra. Chuzhi soon, Senju Mayuki saw that the chakra test paper in Izumi's hand first wrinkled into a ball, and then turned into 2 halves, as if it had been cut by something sharp. Finally, it quickly ignited with a bang burnout. The 3 attributes of thunder, wind, and fire are all attributes with strong attack power. What happened? Quan had a look of surprise on her face. Just now she only felt a slight warmth in her hands. When she opened her eyes, she found that the piece of paper was gone. It's okay, go and play with you. Senju Mayuki waved her hand. There is no need to let her know about chakra attributes for the time being. He can just let her practice it when he has figured out a suitable training method. Oh. As expected, Quan walked away obediently. As for Senju Mayuki, she began to look forward to what her chakra attributes would be. He took a slight breath, then stared at the test paper, extracted a little chakra, and injected it into the test paper. Chuzhi first wrinkled, then torn, then wet, broken into small pieces, and finally burned to ashes. Good guy. I'll be a good guy on horseback. With all 5 attributes, is this the legendary time traveler? After I was shocked, I thought about it again, and realized that this was not a big deal. Not to mention ninjutsu doctors like Hiro's and Sarutobi. There is also a chakra measurement unit with all 7 attributes. That's right, just because you have a good talent with all the attributes, it doesn't mean you can directly recruit them like Kakashi. Having all 7 attributes looked awesome, but within 5 minutes of starting to use his hands, he started gasping, I'm going to die. No matter how many attributes he had, he would be of use. In the end, this world still has to fight for strength. Therefore, the purpose of buying chakra test strips this time was more for Quan's future training. He just tested them, by the way, because for him, basically all offense and defense can be solved by ice, and it even has various practical functions such as ignition, reconnaissance, skating, cooling, ice cream, making girls happy, etc. So my weapon. He stretched out his right hand, and a row of weapon racks quickly grew out of thin air on the ground. On they were all kinds of swords, guns, swords, and halberds, axes, hooks, and forks, whips, maces and hammers, kidnappers, and meteors that he made, based on the images in his memory. The knives include single swords, plain knives, ghost-headed knives, whittling knives, scrapers, iron knives. While muttering about the fun that only he could understand, he started testing one by one to see which one he wanted. Wow. So many weapons. Naturally, the movement here couldn't be hidden from Kwa next to him. When he saw so many weapons, the hot dagger he just bought in his hand suddenly lost its smell. He ran over and stretched out his hand to grab a single sword and play with it, but it turned out that when I didn't hold it firmly, I was so cold that I put it down again with an ouch sound. There were so many weapons of various styles, but you could only look at them, but not play with them, which made the little girl immediately couldn't help but feel dissatisfied. Senju Mayuki just laughed a few times and stopped paying attention, because he had already produced all the weapons he could think of in his memory, but he still didn't see the one that made his eyes brighten up. In fact, with my ability, I don't have to worry about attacking from too far away. His ice ability attacks are only more effective at long range. At close range, dagger, or get a fist blade like a sumo, fist blade, fist. How about getting a glove? It's also because of the ice ability. If it's a glove, you can use it as you like, and you don't have to worry about carrying it. Try? His hands were slightly clenched into fists, and in the blink of an eye, two transparent gloves wrapped the fists in a perfect fit. Ding ding. After touching it, the sound was crisp, but I was still very confident in my own nice Senju Mayuki. Seeing a boulder the size of a house nearby, I adjusted my breath a little and suddenly rushed forward. I gathered all my strength and punched the boulder solidly. Click. A shallow fist mark appeared where the boulder was hit, and there were several tiny cracks around the fist mark. Looking at the gloves, it was just that the surface was slightly broken, and there were a few cracks inside. This kind of wear and tear, it can be easily repaired with just a thought. Perfect. Chapter 31. Your life is doomed. Crack. The last white folder was thrown on the table, and the man in the darkness looked at his subordinates standing in front of him. The subordinate wears a tiger mask painted white, with kabuki facial makeup extending to the left and right near the eye holes, raised high as if to express anger. Uchiha. The photo posted on the document shows a young boy who still has a childlike spirit. In the photo, he seems to be staring at everyone who is looking at this information. There is a powerful force in his eyes, which makes people not think that he is just a teenager. Many people say that he is a genius since the founding of the ninja school. Although the other two are also more outstanding, their performance is still not as impressive as Uchiha. And the subordinate's voice was very cold and hard. Danzo stared at the folder and listened to the other party's report without any fluctuation in his eyes. Of course he knows what his subordinates want to say. Moreover, the third Hokage showed extraordinary attention to these two people, and his attitude was unprecedentedly tough, so it was best not to target them unless it was absolutely necessary. Of course Danzo thought so too. Over the years, he has been able to bargain with his old friends on many things, and sometimes he even cuts things off first and then tells them later. As long as he later shows that he is on the side of the village, Hiruzen usually won't blame him too much. But at the same time, he also knew that his old friend who smiled every day was far from being as simple as it seemed. If he really dared to touch what he had made clear, it was not sure how useful this long-standing friendship would be. It is precisely because he has a deep understanding of this old friend's preferences and values over the years that he can still stay in the important position of Hokage assistant to this day, and no one can shake him. And there's that little guy from the Thousand Hands clan registered in front of that crazy woman. Although he didn't want to admit it, even though Tsunade had no intention of coming back for so long, he knew that if he really touched Senju Mayuki, that woman would most likely do not. He will definitely not save any face for himself. They are the light of Konoha, not suitable for the roots. Danzo concluded this. It's just to develop a useful chess piece. There's no point in getting into trouble with two troublesome people over something like this. The subordinates didn't know that so many thoughts had already passed through the leader's mind in such a short time. He just followed the leader's words and expressed his opinion. I can already imagine that in the future, all departments will try their best to win over him. Yes. Danzo slowly stood up from his chair. Over the years, he has behind the third Hokage, shouldering the dark side of the village. Recently, he has also deeply felt that his body is not as light as before. Although he is not so old that he is close to death, he has reached the age where he should consider his lifespan. 10 years later, 20 years later, I don't know which day I will definitely move toward death. Before that, he thought he still had something to accomplish, cut off the inherent bane of Konoha village. This is the job he took over from the second Hokage and spent his whole life completing. A talent that has not yet been dyed with any color. Danzo looked out the window. It was dark outside and very peaceful, as if he was enjoying a brief moment of peace. This man who had lived through many wars missed the murderous nights in the past. First of all, let's meet him. Although the war is over, the world is still not stable. For us young ninjas, this is not something that has nothing to do with us. Living as a ninja will definitely not be a smooth road. Take everything you learn in the ninja school as nourishment, and implement your own ninja way as a Konoha ninja. After reading the speech aloud, Senju Mayuki slowly put away the scroll, and then glanced at the graduates, current students, parents, and teachers in the audience. The student life that I had been looking forward to so much came to an end. Valedictorian Senju Mayuki. The fact that he took the stage to deliver a speech as a graduate representative seemed to have caused a lot of controversy among the teachers. Because most graduates are 12 years old, there are also students like the three of them who have excellent academic performance and graduated at a young age. But even so, 7 is still too young. Even if their grades, thinking, and strength are no worse than those of fresh graduates, or even much higher, they still look too young when standing in front of other graduates. Also, one more thing. In fact, the first proposed graduate representative was Itachi, and Senju Mayuki had no objections to this matter. In his opinion, it was just a name, and had no practical significance. But in the end, the graduate spot fell to him. Just because Itachi's last name was Uchiha, and his last name was Senju. The group, which is dominated by teachers whose families are related to the Senju clan, has shown an extremely tough attitude on this point, and even the third generation Hokage can't change anything. Graduation season is in March, and countless cherry blossom petals are flying on campus, which is very beautiful. Izumi, who was almost a body jutsu maniac, rarely had the interest to drag Senju Mayuki around the campus to remember her, and kept talking about the various things he had done in school and the things he had not had time to do. That is, occasionally, he saw several figures blocking Itachi's way outside the school gate. Oh, that's Itachi's family. The man is his father, Mr. Fugaku, who is also the leader of the Uchiha clan. The woman is his mother, Aunt Makoto. As for the little bean Kwan, who had been chattering non-stop, suddenly became interested and ran over to pick up little Dowding. Ah, Sasuke's so cute. Oh, that's the second pillar. That's really the second pillar. Good guy, you are treating the future princess like a cat. Ah. Cap. Sasuke, who couldn't speak yet, seemed to be frightened. He burst into tears and kept patting in Izumi's arms and pushing hard in Itachi's direction. Kwan was deeply shocked and could only watch Itachi take Sasuke over, and the little guy immediately smiled again. Kwan was deeply hit x2. Haha, Kwan. Long time no see. Itachi's mother greeted him, and Izumi quickly recovered from his disappointment. While returning the greeting, he also introduced Senju Mayuki, who was following behind. Makoto smiled and talked to them, while Fugaku looked at him deeply, but didn't say anything. But just as a few people were happily chatting about homely things, a man who seemed to have a low pressure aura suddenly walked next to them. This is a dim man. The right side of his face was covered with bandages, and he was dressed in black clothes, but his left shoulder and arm were not covered, revealing the white clothes underneath. Anyway, several people said their laughter immediately disappeared when they saw the man. This look. Danzo. Are you Uchiha Itachi? Ignoring everyone, including the Uchiha clan leader, Danzo just looked down at Itachi and asked. He stared at Itachi with his left eye, and Itachi met his gaze head on. Behind Danzo, Makoto grabbed her husband's hand uneasily. You have a fierce look on your face. Fierce look. It's a look that causes riots. That's what your wrinkles are. After finishing speaking, Danzo pointed to Itachi's two nasolabial folds from his eyes to his cheeks. "You're going to have turbulence in your life." These words seemed to drop a little dirt in the clear sky. Who is this man? The genius since the founding of the ninja school. "I have something to ask you." Itachi said nothing, waiting for him to continue speaking. "On a ship that is about to sink, there are 10 of your compatriots on board. One of them is suffering from a malignant infectious disease. If he continues to live, the other 9 will also fall ill and die. If you are this ship captain, how would you judge?" Itachi thought to himself, how could the other person ask such a question to someone they met for the first time? However, in the next moment, Itachi still answered, "The sick person will die no matter what. This is his fate. If I were the captain, my top priority should be how to save the lives of the other 9 people. I would choose to kill one and save the 9. Danzo smiled proudly after hearing this. Your answer was clear and concise. He took a step forward, getting closer to Itachi. "I will look forward to the day when I see you again," he said in a whisper as he walked past Itachi. Chapter 32 Large-Scale Classification Scene. Congratulations everyone. From today on you will be your own ninja. In a classroom that was temporarily set aside as a gathering place for graduates, a man who might be a teacher for fresh graduates delivered a speech on the podium. But everyone must not be complacent or complacent, because for you, Genin is just another starting point in the school of ninja life. The real hard work has just begun now. From now on, you will be divided into groups of 3, form a class, and start performing tasks with a Jounin teacher. 3 people. A group of 3. Many students obviously didn't know about this yet. After hearing such a rule, they immediately started buzzing with discussion. They were surprised at first, and then immediately started discussing the candidates for the class with louder voices. Obviously everyone was looking forward to it. Put into a class with the classmates you want to be with. Clapped the teacher in front, knocked on the blackboard, and waited for the discussion to subside before continuing. In order to balance the abilities of each class, the class list is drawn up by the teacher, so many of your plans may be in vain. Then I'm going to make the announcement now. First, those 3 guys will definitely be assigned to a group. When their eyes swept over the 3 children in the corner of the front row, many students in the classroom were thinking this. In fact, even Senju Mayuki, Uchiha Itachi, and Izumi, who were involved, thought so, so they didn't talk too much like other students, but quietly waited for a certain lucky Jounin to turn over. Brandon Till. Class Izumo Tenma, Inarika Koro, Uchiha Itachi. A sound of surprise. Including Izumi, she suddenly grabbed Senju Mayuki's arm and shook it vigorously, while constantly saying, "Little Mayuki, Itachi, how did he?" However, until Itachi walked out of the classroom, she could not finish what she wanted to say, but the confusion on her face showed how much impact this allocation list had on her. In fact, she was not the only one. There was another fresh graduate who had a bigger reaction. "What? Let me talk to that guy from a certain clan who is dragging down the village. Hey, what are you doing?" Zinzi. This is a boy with grey hair who is a bit short among fresh graduates. Judging from his reaction, he must be Izumo Tenma, because Inarika Koko is the girl with twin tails who stopped him from continuing. Of course, to stop you from being stupid. Inarika Koro didn't give him any face, but shouted even louder than him. She gestured with her eyes to Itachi, who had already walked out of the classroom door, and said dissatisfiedly, "You have been nagging Itachi since you were in school, and now you have become a genin. How long are you going to hold grudges for such small things? Moreover, as a fresh graduate, you are not as stable as a child. You want to embarrass us fresh graduates?" This sentence is indeed very powerful when spoken in this situation. After hearing this, the classmates next to him immediately showed an angry look at Izumo Tenma. There is a strong possibility that, if he does it again, the word fresh graduate will be confused. It's embarrassing. Now I want him to look good. Cut. Izumo Tenma forced himself to follow him out, while Inarika Koko bowed apologetically to everyone in the classroom and went out. The different personalities of the 3 people can be clearly seen from this little thing. The leading Jounin should be observing the performance of their respective students somewhere, right? Senju Mayuki glanced across the entire classroom pretending to be casual, but found no place suitable for such a peeping device. What kind of person would his leader be? And my companions? Itachi has been separated. What about Quan? Will I also be assigned to another class? Thinking of this possibility, he suddenly felt unhappy. Madam, I have worked so hard as a teacher and a nanny to cultivate such a juicy little cabbage. Now that I have reached this stage, I want to let other boys pick it? It's simply a crazy mentality. How can you remain calm in the face of such changes? At this time, in the Hokage's office, many Jonin were gathering together to watch the live video of the division in the glass bowl in front of the Hokage. When he saw this, the male Jonin standing at the front with a scar on his cheek and eyebrow and hair like a hedgehog couldn't help but scratch his head. This little girl is quite normal. The other two little guys are smart at first glance. Alas, Hokage-sama really gave me a lot of trouble, hehe. The other Jonin in the office burst into laughter. The class list is naturally no secret to them, so everyone here basically knows which students they will lead. Although it may sometimes be a headache to teach poor or impulsive students, they will never have anyone willing to change with them. Bring two IQ types at once. That would be even more frustrating than raising a group of ignorant children. All the Jonin present have long understood this. He, the third generation old man, also laughed, but his laughter contained some pride unique to the elderly. Actually, I also know that, now that your child has been born, I shouldn't bother you anymore with leading a team of Jonin. But you also know the importance of the two of them to the village. After thinking about it, I think that only a gentle personality and strong strength like you, Shikaku, can do this well. So even though I feel very guilty, I still have to let you return to your old business for the sake of the village. Shikaku, one of the veteran Inoshikacho from the World War III period, has a superb IQ and is an indispensable brain figure on the battlefield. Yes, Hokage-sama, I'm not complaining. A wry smile appeared on Shikaku's face. Just like Mr. Hokage said, with his current age and family situation, he should have played a long-term role in a fixed position. But suddenly he received a transfer order, asking him to come back and be a leading Jounin. Okay, it's a little troublesome, but to be honest, everyone is looking forward to the future you mentioned, Hokage-sama. Even if I'm tired for a while, I think it's worth it. This is it. That's right. Senju and Uchiha are indeed a conjecture that has never been tried before. Even if some Jounin are not interested in the word Uchiha, looking at the cute smiling girl in the picture, they will basically not impose personal grudges on a child. The following is class Senju Shinetsu. Coming. Senju Mayuki's pupils suddenly shrank, and Izumi on the side suddenly grabbed his arm tightly. He was so strong that he almost couldn't help but want to contribute to global warming. Izumi Uchiha. Yeah. Izumi was so happy that she jumped up, grabbed Senju Mayuki's arm, and began to chatter excitedly. They were all non-nutritious words such as "that's great." Obviously, she is really happy that she does not have to be separated from Zio Zenryu. And the last one will be. And, Hyuga Takuma. Chapter 33 Class 9. What is the purpose of separating three outstanding young talents from the same class into different classes? If it was simply because of what the teacher said was for the balance of each class, then why didn't I and Izumi separate? And he also stuffed a member of the Hyuga clan. Takuma? In a certain classroom, three children were waiting silently for their Jounin teacher. Senju Shinetsu is constantly thinking about some unknown possibilities. Judging from the appearance of this Hyuga boy, he can't be considered a hindrance, right? Hyuga Takuma, 10 years old, has a handsome face, a serious attitude, and a serious attitude. Although he did not graduate in the first grade like the three of them, he can be considered a very powerful genius after graduating at the age of 10. Therefore, at least the balance that the teacher mentioned before is absolutely not applicable to class especially. I'm sorry, I kept you all waiting for so long. Introduce yourself. I'm your future leading Jounin Shikaku. Shikaku? What the hell? Nima. This is interesting. Who is Shikahisanera? Absolute intelligence, and in the entire Konoha village, his role is only higher than that of the Sannin. In terms of the actual status and importance of Shinran, except for the Hokage and a few senior officials, few dare to say that they are more awesome than him. Such a person came over to serve as a teacher for a few children? Is he crazy, or are the higher ups in this village crazy? Who is it that has such a big face? Yourself? Do not make jokes. Senju's surname is special, but that's it. Why should Narushikaku be chased like this? That's when you really can't see your own status clearly. Not to mention a little brat like him. Even if Tsunade was here today, she might not be able to control the man in front if she likes this. Is it because of the Hinata family? After a little observation of Hinata Takuma's reaction, it's not like the confusion on his face couldn't be just fake, right? Therefore, there are still external forces present. A third generation old man. Who else but him could command Narushikaku like this? More than that, presumably the composition of team must be indispensable for that old man's instructions, right? Senju, Uchiha, Hinata, Narushikaku, Inerika Butterfly. Could it be Inagacho, the die-hard Hokage group? Students brought up by such people mean that they are born with the label of Hokage. Two strongest families, one Senju who has declined, but has made friends with countless civilians and families, and most importantly, how many people have been favored by Tsunade in these years. Although for some reasons, Tsunade is unwilling to get involved in the village's affairs now, but if the little guy of her own race has made her position clear, why can't those who have been favored by Tsunade give some face? And with Tsunade's temper, she wouldn't go around trying to explain to people that this was not my intention, right? Whoa, chap, wonderful, this is a good calculation. Is this what you think? He looked up and down at Narushikaku, who looked a little lazy and had a gentle smile. For such a man, you will definitely not be able to find anything. If you ask him, I can only rely on myself to observe slowly in the days to come. Well, although I have already seen your information, in order to get to know each other more quickly, let's briefly introduce ourselves, like we did when we were in school. Like me, Narushikaku took the initiative to make a fool of himself. My name is Narushikaku. I'm 27 years old. I have a gentle wife and a child less than 2 years old at home. I like many things, but there are not many things I really want to do, because my family tolerates, because of my skills. I'm not a fighting type. You will gradually understand this as we get along with each other in the future. After saying that, he looked at the three people in the classroom expectantly. Like I said, is anyone willing to take the initiative to come first? I'm me. Of the three students present, the only one who could jump up was Quan. Sure enough, these two children seem to be the stable type. My name is Izumi Uchiha. I'm 7 years old this year. I have a gentle mother at home. I like training and the meatballs that Zaosanzuki invites me to eat. As for my fighting style, Zaosanzuki said that my specialty is taijutsu. When paired with the Sharingan, you can achieve higher combat effectiveness. Well, I will try my best to cooperate with everyone when we get along in the future, okay? As soon as the game ended here, Narushikaku sent him timely encouragement. It's a pity that after Izumi finished speaking, she just smiled at Senju Mayuki. Looking at her, she looked like a child who was begging for praise for doing something good. That, while secretly sighing that children nowadays are so difficult to deal with, Narushikaku turned his attention to the remaining two little guys and encouraged them with his eyes. Come on, little guys, don't be shy. Show yourself bravely in this small class. After the remaining Senju Mayuki and Hinata looked at each other, the former finally stood up on his own initiative. Then let me do it first. My name is Senju Mayuki. I'm 7 years old. I'm an orphan. However, I just have a gentle woman to take care of me. I also have a lot of things I like. As for the fighting method, I mainly use ice escape. I have good attack and defense capabilities. Yes, I can also make some gadgets similar to puppets. I will slowly show this to everyone in the future as we get along, okay? Then finally, several people looked at the handsome boy who had been silently standing aside. Surprisingly, Hyuga Takuma was not as coy as he looked. When it was his turn, he was very straightforward. He nodded and stood up and said, my name is Hinata Takuma. I'm 10 years old this year. I'm an only child. My parents are still alive at home. I like to train when I have nothing to do. My fighting method is mainly the soft boxing handed down from my family. However, compared to fighting, I think my greater role is in detection. This is also the responsibility that our Hyuga clan has always shouldered. In the process of carrying out future missions, you can rest assured that I will entrust the reconnaissance and security tasks to me, and I will definitely not hold you back in this regard. Perhaps because he has not yet reached the age where his voice can change, Hinata Takuma's voice is almost as immature as Senju Mayuki's, and it does not match the serious expression on his face. Well, okay, after everyone was introduced, Naruto focused everyone's attention on himself. Logically speaking, there will be a test for genin qualifications after the classification. But as I said before, I'm not very good at fighting. To be honest, there is really no absolute guarantee in front of geniuses like you. I can win, so I'm going to change my approach. As he spoke, he took out a few pieces of paper from his arms, and then moved Quan to come forward and give each person one piece. The content of the test is very simple. You have all listened to everyone's self-introduction just now. Now I want each of you to write down your understanding of the word team on paper and give it to me. Team. Although the form is different, the purpose is still the same. After getting the paper, Senju Mayuki started writing without hesitation. Hinata Takuma seemed to be in a daze while holding a pen and paper. As for Izumi, she stretched out her head to take a look at what Senju Mayuki was writing. Hehe, Zyadakun, you don't need to look at him. There is no standard answer to this question. What the teacher wants is your own understanding of these two words. Chapter 34. What does brushing daily life mean? The test results, as expected, all passed. Or, if things are really like what Senju Mayuki thinks, it is possible that they will not write anything and will not be rushed back to school to retake classes like other ordinary students. Special care for geniuses, the privileges of related households. After the test, Naruto said that for the sake of team building, the teacher made an exception and asked the students to have a meal today so that everyone is welcome and just ask for whatever they want to eat. And this is a good thing as the only girl with a lively personality in the team. Quan stood up again without hesitation, mainly to cooperate with the teacher. It's this first time for Mr. Shikaku to treat us, so of course we have to give him face. I remember what Zyakun likes to eat is meatballs. Haha, if it's just meatballs, any of the three of them. Let's go have a good barbecue. Puff. BBQ. BBQ? Why? You are a cute and slim girl, isn't it? Right that we should only like to eat vegetarian food and resolutely resist meat eating? Barbecue. However, the lovely students gave him no chance to regret. Senju Mayuki thought for a moment, then nodded under Quan's expectant gaze. Since teacher Shikaku invites you so sincerely, the look on his face seemed to be saying, actually, you can eat anything, but since this is Shikaku-sensei's first invitation, of course I can't refuse it. And that Hyuga Takuma, who looks serious and always seems to be so calm and taciturn, maybe he was a little embarrassed to let the teacher spend so much money, but after hearing words similar to this as Shikaku-sensei's first invitation twice in succession, under Izumi's burning eyes, he didn't know why. This matter has been raised to a level of importance that will affect team relations. Of course, I will definitely participate. Okay, we agree, let's go. Looking at the three students in front of me, one is so excited that he is chirping, one is just as good as everyone likes, and the other is serious. Naruto just felt that something was wrong. I meant to treat guests, but it was obviously you who proposed the barbecue. No matter how you look at Takuma-san, it seems that I must treat everyone to a barbecue, and if you don't go, you won't give me face. Although the three children may not eat too much, but my poor child is still eating milk powder. If his gentle mother knew about this, I would dare to be so extravagant and wasteful on my first day as a teacher. Crisis. A major family crisis. Shikaku-sensei, hurry up, how can you be so backward as a treater? PFFT, another stab straight into the heart. Yes, now I just hope that I won't meet my gentle and virtuous wife on the road. If we really meet. While following him helplessly, Naruto was still thinking about what he would say if he really met his wife. Eating barbecue is the result of the discussion among the students. As a teacher, I can't refuse it easily. What does it mean? Sigh. This has just begun, and it's already so troublesome. Number 3. This is number 1. Please report the target's movements. Over. No. 15. This is no. left square bracket dash right square bracket. The target is now in the grass under the tree about meters in front of you, and there is no sign of escaping for the time being. Over. No. Did you hear no? No. Is heading to the target location. Please wait patiently for no. Left square bracket dash right square bracket. Over. Then there was silence. When performing tasks, the radio must remain silent unless necessary. This is a quality that ninjas must possess. After a while, the voice finally came from the headset. No. Reports that the target has been surrounded. No. Can now carry out the arrest operation. Repeat. No. Can carry out the arrest. Over. No. Understands. As soon as he finished speaking, a petite figure swooped out from behind the tree, crossed an ice wall more than 1 meter high, and then jumped towards the grass under the tree that no. Reported just now, then, caught it. Ha ha ho radio, copy net hemp rope. The heavily armed Uchiha Izumi stood up from the grass, holding a fat grey rabbit in his hand. Yes, even for a character like Naruto, the newly inherited Genin team had to start with D-level tasks such as cleaning up garbage, helping find lost animals, cleaning, and helping fellow villagers water. But it's okay. Naruto, who witnessed the entire process from a distance, felt that it was a bit unqualified to ask these 3 students to perform such a task, but fortunately, these students had good personalities, and were not like the others. Students will also cry out that they are bored and think that their value can only be reflected by tasks such as protecting important personnel and cleaning up trays. Even looking at Koizumi-san's performance, it seems like she enjoys it every time. Under her guidance, the other 2 students who originally don't care, and teamwork is also a kind of training, also cooperated and did not show any impatience. Such a united and harmonious class situation really saved him a lot of worry as a teacher. Well, it's almost time. 3 students who are obviously superior in ability have been performing this kind of children's playhouse task for the past month. Clean up garbage in rivers. Each of Senju Mayuki and Izumi created several shadow clones, stepped on the river and ran fiercely. It only took half an afternoon to complete the planned amount of at least 3 days. Help fellow villagers water their crops. Senju Mayuki stood at the edge of the field with his hands spread out. The nearby river sprayed into the sky like a water dragon, and then under his control, it covered the crops that needed watering like rain. It was another half afternoon. It took almost a week to complete, looking for lost animals or objects. Speaking of this kind of mission, it's the weirdest thing. Hinata Takuma stood in the middle, rolled his eyes, and the other 2 students were responsible for running around to pick up things. The completed task list was like running water. To put it bluntly, the mission funds are just like picking up for free. It makes him, the teacher, almost jealous when he looks at it. According to Senju Mayuki, this is not a ninja mission. This is simply a daily routine. And for him, the leader of the team, the most important thing is that none of these students have negative emotions because they failed to play a role in a certain task. This may seem like a small thing, but in fact, only from the perspective of people like them who have experienced it can we understand that this small thing is actually extremely important to new ninjas. At a small level, this is called broad-mindedness, but at a large level, it means trusting the team. It shows that everyone knows their position in this group. So at this time, even Naruto, who is an elite jonin, had to express his approval for these 3 students of his. It's time to put some more responsibilities on them. Tasks like this, that are only played in the village, should be left to the children in other classes to hone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35. The first sea-level task. Escort the seal scroll. Yes. In the Hokage's office, the 3rd generation Hokage is explaining a new task to team, headed by Naruto. Speaking of which, this is what I promised the leader of the Earth Spider clan, Yuzhizing, during the last Ninja World War. Their clan's forbidden art has the terrifying power to destroy a town in one blow. It is not something that ordinary people can control. If it's not right, if it is restricted, it is likely to cause immeasurable consequences. So I found the Yakuza walkers and asked for their forbidden techniques to be sealed. As a price, when the Earth Spider clan is in trouble, our Konoha village must go to support them unconditionally. Having said this, the third Hokage handed over the letter in his hand, and Narushikaku quickly stepped forward to take it. One thing worth noting is that although it is just a sea-level escort mission on the surface, they mentioned in their letter that there seems to be a group of thieves who want to steal their forbidden skills and have been lingering near their tribe. So depending on the situation on site, this mission may be upgraded to a B-level combat mission at any time. But fortunately, according to what was mentioned in the letter, if they can be stopped by the existing combat power of the Earth Spider clan, the strength of that group of thieves must be extremely limited. This is why I can rest assured to leave this mission to you. The above is all the content of this mission. I wonder if team is willing to accept such a challenge? After asking this question, the third Hokage did not rush for the answer, but waited patiently, allowing Narushikaku to read the contents of the letter carefully from beginning to end. After all, this is not a mission given to ordinary ninjas. Newcomers always need some love and care, not to mention that this class is a special class that has condensed so much effort of the third Hokage. Hokage Samasun, Narushikaku read the letter and handed it back to the third Hokage. After taking a few steps back and standing next to the students, looking at his students, he saw excited Koizumi, Maya nodding in support, and Takuma with serious eyes. He quickly went over the performance of the three students in the recent period in his mind and compared it with the useful information just given by the letter and the Hokage. Finally, he looked at the third Hokage indecisively. Please leave this mission to us. Class will definitely complete this mission safely. Oh. Hehehe. Although he had already expected this to be the case, the third Hokage still laughed happily when he saw this scene. As expected, we are indeed the outstanding graduates of this class. Okay, class, follow your orders. Exist. Yes. X3 in the name of the third Hokage, I request that you deliver the seal scroll to the hands of the current patriarch of the Earth Spider clan as quickly as possible. Also, if you encounter any thieves who have evil intentions against the Earth Spider clan's arts forbidden during the mission, bring them with you. Team Captain Narushikaku has the authority to make decisions based on the situation on site. The purpose of your trip is only one: to ensure the safety of the Earth Spider clan's forbidden arts. Do you understand? Understood. X4 go. So, Narushikaku put the seal scroll firmly away and then nodded to the third Hokage. The subordinate has retired. The four members of class quickly left. In the quiet office, the third Hokage sat quietly for a while. Suddenly, he frowned slightly, reached out and knocked on the table twice. Whoosh! An Anbu wearing an animal mask appeared silently, knelt on one knee, did not speak, and just waited for orders quietly. Assign another Hyuga to go over. There is no need to interfere with their mission content. Just ensure the safety of the target from a distance. Yes. As soon as he finished speaking, the Anbu disappeared with another whoosh. The third Hokage was once again the only one left in the office. Only this time, his face no longer had the frown and uneasiness, with a team of Anbu following. Coupled with Narushikaku's on-site response, unless a village was determined to start a war, he couldn't think of anyone else who could threaten the safety of those little guys. On the other side, after class left the office, Narushikaku gave them an hour to prepare, and they gathered on time at the Amu main gate of the village an hour later. Senju Mayuki, on his side, simply returned home and tidied up briefly. At the same time, he separated a shadow clone and went to the orphanage to explain the situation to Nunoyu, and then went straight to the meeting place. Well, when I passed by a meatball shop, I thought about it and went in to buy 2 boxes to pack. After all, I don't know how many days this trip will take, and I definitely won't be able to supply it every day, but it's still possible to satisfy the cute girl's cravings before leaving. As a male god, you need to be considerate and warm occasionally, so that you can continue to enhance the centripetal force of cute girls in it. Takuma is still as serious and meticulous as ever. But in the final analysis, he is still a child at heart, and it is still difficult to suppress the excitement in his heart for his first mission out of the village. Everyone who sees him can feel the happiness under his calm surface as for the spring. Originally, she just planned to go home and report to her mother, but by chance, she met Uchiha Itachi, who had just returned at the entrance of the clan. Under the excitement of meeting him at the same time, the little girl who was not yet 8 years old was inevitably shocked. This gave rise to a desire to share joy. "Oh, it's getting late," by Itachi-kwan, who accidentally talked for too long, stuck out his little tongue cutely, and then jumped away in a hurry. "Oh, see you later." Looking at her back, and then at the various cat-catching equipment on his body, Itachi couldn't help but have a hint of anxious anger on his normally plain face. "She has already started leaving the village to perform high-level tasks, but I'm still, first time, wrong. It's just that I haven't thought about it from this perspective before. In fact, from the beginning, I must have been dissatisfied with the current class. Izumo Tenma, who has a very impulsive personality and only yells every day. Inari, whose grades are not very good and can only beat Izumo Tenma's heart. In addition, there is a weak character, Yuki Minazuki, the leading jounin, who spends almost all his energy just dealing with the quarrels between the two people every day. With such a team, how long will it take for me to become a super ninja with enough strength to surpass everyone and realize my dream? I want to change the world." This is what Uchiha Itachi, who was once only 4 years old, said to himself on the battlefield that was like hell on earth. He would never forget the mountains of cold corpses and the painfully distorted faces of the dead. From that moment on, Itachi felt suffocated and despaired of having to spend his whole life in such a world. No matter what the reason, using war to solve things is wrong. If this is the way the world is, then I have to change it. Become a better ninja than anyone else, and eliminate all disputes in the world. Chapter 36, When an ordinary story meets a flag. Teacher Shikaku, what kind of tribe are the earth spiders? In the dense woods, 4 figures were galloping among the tree trunks in a 4 formation. Said to be delivered as soon as possible, Shikaku controlled the speed of the team's progress very well. After all, it is at least 3 days' journey from Konoha village to the residence of the Earth Spider clan, so physical strength must be reasonably arranged. In fact, Senju Mayuki said at the beginning that he could get something like a nice bird to fly with everyone. I can't say how fast it would be, but it would save effort. However, after flying for a few minutes, everyone still smiled and rejected his kindness. Is there a reason? It's so cold. My feet are numb from the cold after standing for a while. Is it a clan of earth spiders? After hearing Izumi's question, Shikaku thought for a moment and thought it would be better to educate the students a little bit about science. So he told a few people the information he knew in as concise words as possible. The outside world doesn't know much about this family. We only know that their family has a secret forbidden technique called Angfushan. It is said that this secret ninjutsu can only be controlled by members of their family. In the last ninja war, they indeed showed a power that made all villagers fearful. At that time, many people saw with their own eyes the shocking sight of their clan wiping a town to the ground with just one blow. Fortunately, the Third Hokage was concerned about the common people in the world, and in order not to cause too many deaths and sacrifices, he found their clan leader, and at the cost of Konoha village's unconditional assistance, he obtained the current clan leader of the Earth Spider clan. Yao the Traveler nodded in agreement. However, it may be precisely because of such terrifying attack methods that after the war, the Earth Spider clan will still be frequently harassed by various thieves with unknown origins in order to snatch the forbidden technique called Angry Sky. After repeated visits, I heard that the current Earth Spider clan has suffered heavy losses and has lost its original glory. This is probably why they suddenly sent news to Konoha village. Do you no longer have the power to protect the valuables in your clan? Hinata Takuma's voice came from behind. Just being vigilant on the road was relatively easy for him. Shikaku nodded. Judging from the available information, it should be pretty much the same as your guess. But let's talk. The whole world is clearly under threat from the Earth Spider clan, but only the Third Hokage is willing to step forward and solve this problem. Izumi has become more and more cheerful since he met Senju Mayuki. Now he always sees the positive and optimistic side when looking at problems. Regarding Shikaku's explanation, most people would only pay attention to the current situation of the Earth Spider clan, but she saw another side of yin and yang. You are indeed the greatest third generation adult. Narashikaku was stunned for a moment when he heard this, and then he laughed. Hehe. Yes, Koizumi is right. As a famous ninjutsu doctor in the entire ninja world, the contribution made by the third generation is obvious to all, and cannot be erased by anyone. Right? Izumi became even more proud after being praised by the teacher. Of course, this pride was mainly directed at Senju Mayuki. Great. In response to Izumi's provocation, Senju Mayuki just showed a silent smile regarding the third Hokage. His current attitude cannot be judged by simple recognition or hostility. After all, it was true that the old man had taken care of him for more than a year, but it was also true that he allowed Denzo to do those little things to Uchiha. Therefore, what kind of person the third Hokage is, he cannot make a random judgment based on the information he currently has. That would definitely involve a lot of subjectivity and would be unfair to a third generation old man. It depends on what he will do next after having me as an unexpected factor. People are going to change. Goo goo goo. On a high mountain top, a sudden hoot of an owl alarmed the people in the house. Lord Patriarch, this is the reply from Konoha village. A man took down the letter, glanced at the identification number, and hurried back to the house. Ah. The old man sitting in the room, the current leader of the Earth Spider clan, nodded slowly, but several younger men in the room asked questions. How about it? What did Konoha say? It's been so long, they must have. Shut up. This is an agreement between the clan leader and the third Hokage. How could such a person? Everything is quiet. The middle-aged man standing next to the serving traveler drank in a deep voice. He waited until the room became quiet before taking the letter and handing it to him. There wasn't much content in the letter, and Yozizings read the entire content in just a few glances, but his original serious and dignified expression had improved a lot. The third Hokage is indeed a man of his word. Teacher, what do you mean? Hearing him say this, a young man's face suddenly lit up with joy. Well, that's right. The traveler smiled and nodded. The letter said that, as soon as we received the letter, the third Hokage had already sent the deer from the contemporary pig deer butterfly to lead a team. Judging from the date on the letter, tomorrow night at the latest it will arrive. Deer? Is it that family that is rumored to be famous for its IQ and strategy? Speaking of things in the outer village, several young people suddenly became interested, and they began to discuss what kind of person the enigma butterfly of Konoha village was. Hehe. The soldier smiled, not blaming them for their erratic behavior. After all, the strength of Konoha village has been recognized by the entire ninja world, and their earth spiders can hardly save their own treasures now. Wave. I'm here, master. One of the young men, who obviously looked the most mature, nodded quickly in response. Although we are the one asking for help, we cannot omit the proper etiquette. You will be responsible for arranging tomorrow's reception. We do not ask for luxury, but we must let everyone in Konoha village feel our sincerity in attaching importance to the diplomatic relations between the two villages. Yes, master. Hahaha, let's all disperse. Pay more attention to patrols in the past 2 days, especially the fortress's boundaries. There must be no problems. Yes. X7. When the middle-aged man helped the traveler into the inner room, the young people in the room looked at each other, but they didn't say anything, but left with their own concerns. Father, are you happy? As for the man named Lang Tao, perhaps something he had been waiting for so long finally came to fruition. Even when he returned home, the joy on his face was still so obvious that even his always naughty son could see it. Oh, is it so obvious on my face? Hehe. Lang Tao didn't pay attention to such trivial matters. He even felt that his son had grown up and knew that he cared about his father, so he was so happy that he wanted to share his joy with his family. As expected, Konoha village did not break the oath made back then. It has already sent an envoy to this side. Soon. Looking at his wife, who was clearly in her prime, but with wrinkles visible around her eyes, Lang Tao couldn't help but feel guilt and expectation in her voice. After tomorrow, our family can live in peace and contentment. Chapter 37. Shadow Seam Flowers Bloom. Hurrying slowly all the way, we finally arrived at the territory of the Earth Spider clan before the appointed time. But Shikaku-sensei, above, the Earth Spider clan is on the top of a cylindrical mountain that looks like it was carved artificially. The mountain is surrounded by an abyss tens of meters wide, and on the outer edge of the abyss is a large area of open grassland. For the people on the top of the mountain, this grassland is like a natural isolation zone, and any invading enemy cannot escape their surveillance. However, when Senju Mayuki and others arrived, they saw many triggered traps in the open space. When they approached the abyss, they heard various explosions and vibrations coming from above from time to time. Hopefully we are not too late. Naruto looked up, his thick eyebrows furrowed. Senju Mayuki looked around and found that there was no place nearby to lend strength to, so he immediately stepped forward consciously, squatted down and pressed his hands on the edge of the cliff. Frozen. The next second, a 2-meter wide ice arch bridge quickly grew from one end to the other side. Because the distance was too wide, he had to control the bridge deck from being crushed by gravity while extending forward. For safety, he even built guardrails on both sides of the bridge. To be honest, it's a bit stressful to bring out such a big guy at once. Fortunately, the grass nearby is rich and the groundwater resources are almost inexhaustible. With Senju Shinetsu's full output, in just a few blinks of an eye, an ice bridge spanning both ends of the abyss was completed. True Moon Naruto asked with concern. When he saw Senju Mayuki saying that there was no problem, he immediately nodded, leaving the words "you all pay attention to your own safety," and then took the lead in jumping across the bridge. After getting along with each other for such a long time, he already had a good understanding of his students. Since he said it was okay, it must be okay. Whoosh whoosh, 4 figures arrived on the other side in almost no particular order. Takuma. Yes. Roll your eyes. Under the infusion of chakra, the blood vessels around Hinata Takuma's eyes were as domed as earthworms. There were many triggered traps on the way up the mountain, as well as several corpses of unknown persons. He looked carefully towards a certain direction on the top of the mountain, and quickly reported, "Teacher Shikaku, there is a group of people in the house above resisting the attack from outside. It is good." After Naruto heard this, he immediately took the lead and set off. Takuma is in front, Zinzuki and Koizumi are in the middle. Be aware of possible dangers at any time. Yes. In such an emergency situation, the always lively Quan also became serious, quickly adjusted his formation, and rushed to the top of the mountain at full speed. As the vanguard, Hyuga Takuma kept his Byakugan open the entire time, while rushing on the road. As he said at the beginning, compared with fighting, this is when the Hyuga clan can be most effective. Watch my landing spot carefully. In front of Byakugan, any physical trap is a trap. SHHHH tap tat. In just a few minutes, the 4 people passed through countless traps and reached the top of the mountain. However, after seeing the scene here, several people were stunned for a moment. Quan's little face instantly turned pale, and his eyes were full of trembling and shock. This is. Everywhere you look, there are large blood stains and corpses in various forms of death. The air was filled with smoke from burning houses, but it still couldn't cover up the smell of blood that was so strong that it choked your nose. In fact, it's not just her. Faced with such a tragic situation, Senju Mayuki and Hinata Takuma are not much better, but their personalities determine that they will not show it so obviously. Naruto certainly noticed the state of the students, but at this time, he couldn't even bother to provide psychological counseling to the students, even if he wanted to, because through the ruins and sea of fire, you can see a large crowd surrounding the building in the middle. Obviously the target of this mission is in that room. Takuma is guarding us from behind. Koizumi Mayuki, pay attention to your own safety. At this time, you can only choose to believe in your students. Yes. X3 Hinata Takuma immediately fell to the end, and Izumi subconsciously moved closer to Senju Mayuki, then drew out his dagger, and followed Naruto to face the enemy. Boss, there is a situation. There must be at least 20 or 30 thieves surrounding the middle room, and soon some sharp-eyed guys discovered them. What? In the middle of the crowd, a strong man with an exposed belly and a scar on his face, turned around in displeasure. That forehead protector is from Konoha. There was a man next to him who looked like a younger brother and responded quickly. After saying that, his face didn't look good, and he cursed in a low voice. Didn't you say you'd arrive at night? Why would you do it at this time? What are you afraid of? The strong man was obviously the leader of this group of people. After hearing his muttering, He immediately cursed a few times. There are so many of us, but are you afraid of two little babies with no hair at all? But boss, there are only a few of us. Isn't it a bit to go against Konoha? To shut up. Today's matter has been done after all. Use your pig brains and think about it. Even if you stop now, will they let you go easily? The strong man cursed to arouse the emotions of his younger brothers, and at the same time turned his head and looked into the room. The remnants of the earth spiders have been beaten to pieces by them, and basically all of them are injured. Now they can only huddle in the house and rely on the barrier to hold on. After thinking for a moment, the strong man suddenly raised his sword and pointed it at Naruto. So what about the ninjas of Konoha? They're just one adult and a few children. At most, they're one jounin and a few students. I'm afraid of eggs. If you are brave enough, come with me. As long as we get the earth spider's forbidden technique today, we will be able to stand on our own as a country by then. Why should we be afraid of Konoha village? Boss is right. Done. We all listen to you. Boss. It is good. Listening to the increasingly passionate shouts of his men, the strong man also knew that the iron had to be struck while the iron was hot, and he immediately shouted, "Today, we will use the ninjas of Konoha village to sacrifice the flag for our good days." And then he took the lead and rushed over. Teacher Shikaku, everyone from the Earth Spider clan has retreated back to the house, and all the people still standing outside are enemies. After saying so much, it only took a few breaths. At this time, the information reported by Hinata Takuma just came from the headsets of Senju Mayuki and others. Learn. In that case, he glanced at the two students next to him calmly. Senju Mayuki was okay, and had already focused his attention on the charging enemy. Koizumi was obviously still a little panicked. Matsuki, take good care of Zayakuen. After giving the warning, Naruto suddenly moved toward the enemy. After the two sides approached a certain distance, he suddenly dodged under a big rock next to him. The art of shadow sewing. Under the setting sun, the dark shadow of the big stone suddenly lengthened and dispersed, as if it had come alive. Wrong. There's something weird about this shadow. After all, he was still the boss. Almost as soon as he saw the shadow transform, the strong man suddenly retreated and jumped far away. Black Higanha. Whoosh whoosh. Almost at the same time, the shadows on the ground suddenly turned into black sharp blades, after extending to the enemy's feet, thrusting into their necks from bottom to top. Ugh. Guru. Not a single scream was heard. Some are just puffing sounds of throats being cut and blood pouring out of the trachea. That scene is like a thorn flower suddenly blooming on the other side of the underworld. Its nutrients are the blood and lives of these evil thieves. Damn it. What kind of ninjutsu is that? Of the 10 people who rushed up together, only 3 managed to escape, and 7 were killed in one encounter. While his heart was palpitating, the strong man did not continue to rush forward as recklessly as he appeared. Instead, he suppressed his anger and stared at Naruto closely while waving to the men next to him. I'll hold him back while you go catch those little things. Chapter 38. Spring. Senju Mayuki also noticed something was wrong with Izumi's state. However, the enemies on the opposite side did not leave him much time and soon swarmed around him. Seeing this, Senju Mayuki had to make a decisive decision. Shadow clone. A shadow clone suddenly appeared in front of Quan, and the main body faced the enemy without looking back. Oh, little guy, do you still know how to protect the little beauty at this time? Still a little love interest, ha ha ha. Don't worry little one, when I catch you, I will send you and your little beauty together to reunite down there. The guy opposite obviously didn't pay attention to these two children, who were less than their waist height. A dozen strong men with thick chests, all armed with various weapons, faced two children holding fruit knives. In this wave, I'm going to lose with a flying dragon in my face. Numbers. Of course, Senju Mayuki heard the enemy's dirty words. To be honest, if it were a normal protagonist, he should be calm and calm at this time, not affected by external factors at all. However, it's really unpleasant for me to be scolded like this. Numbers. Life is short, so you still have to give yourself nitrogen to speed up, right? There happened to be a large puddle in front of the house. Senju Mayuki, who was so angry, grabbed hard in the direction of the puddle without even thinking. Water dragon. while a water dragon more than 1 meter thick and more than 10 meters long suddenly rose into the air, circled in the air, and dived towards the evil thieves. Raw wow. Water dragon bullet? How is that possible? Wow, brother, help me. The thieves who were arrogant just now scattered, like frightened birds and beasts in an instant. Only 3 men in turbans remained calm. The 3 of them looked at each other. Although they were all a little shocked that the child opposite could use such advanced ninjutsu as water dragon bullet, such a scene was not that difficult for them to deal with. The guy with the yellow turban in the middle nodded and squatted down to quickly perform a few hand seals. He slapped the ground before the water dragon rushed down. 2 done. Earth flow wall. Rumbling, a wall made of rocks rose instantly. Raw boom. Crash. The swooping water dragon hit the rock wall with its head, but it only made a gap and shattered into countless water splashes. Humph, the man in the yellow scarf snorted and stood up with a disdainful smile on his lips. Although the ability to use shadow clones and water dragon bullets really shocked me, I'm still just a child after all. The same ninjutsu has different powers when used by different people. Those idiots are scared shitless when they see big ninjutsu. The one with the yellow turban is earth, and the remaining 2, the blue one is water, and the red one is fire. Senju Mayuki seemed frightened by this scene, but in fact she was judging the opponent's situation. On the shadow clone side, when he saw Kwan's expression change, because the water dragon was scattered, he immediately whispered to her, "Izumi, have you noticed that, although there are many people on the other side, the real fighting power should only be the few on Mr. Shikaku's side and the 3 guys wearing turbans here? I know you feel bad now, but this is a battle, and we must cheer up, otherwise once they catch us, we will be brutally killed by them like the corpses on the ground. Think about Auntie you, didn't you say goodbye to her so happily before going out? Now she must be at home looking forward to you completing the task and going back to share your joy with her." Sure enough, mother is Kwan's biggest spiritual support. I understand. Maya-chan holding the dagger tightly, Kwan's eyes became firm little by little. "You should fight seriously. I have already awakened. It is good." Only then did the clone feel relieved. "The main body and I will deal with the 3 hooded men. You go and clean up the minions first, and then come and support me depending on the situation." After saying that, without waiting for a response, he hurried towards the main body. "Most definitely. Even though I know that the other party can no longer hear." He turned his eyes to the minions around him who were becoming arrogant again. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, then opened them suddenly. Sharingan. The scarlet pupils to shine with a strange light. Shoo, a small figure began rushed into the crowd carrying a short knife. Ding dang dang, the young and frail girl jumped around, while surrounded by a dozen strong men who were almost twice her height. However, not even one of these thieves who only knew a little bit of ninjutsu could touch the hem of her clothes. Ding dang dang, and every time the cold light flashed in the girl's hand, it was accompanied by a shrill scream and a shower of hot blood. Damn brat. When the man in red scarf saw this, he yelled angrily and went to support him. "Your opponent is me." Senju Shinetsu's main body and shadow clone spoke at the same time. While attracting the opponent's attention, the main body continued to infuse spiritual power into the water everywhere in the field, and the clone stretched out its hand to the water pool and called again, "Water dragon." "Wow wow wow, raw damn boy, don't be too proud." The man in blue scarf couldn't bear it any longer and started to form seals with his hands like a flower. "I will let you see what a real water dragon bullet is today." Chao Shen Maozi. Fire escape. The technique of big fireball. Call. A ball of fire soared into the sky, barely stopping the water dragon that rushed down. The place was filled with white water vapor as the water and fire merged. Yanzu Yancy. "You idiot, you're still using that weird ninjutsu with too many seals when your face is hit with ninjutsu." Man with blue turban. Hash. "However, even if my face becomes distorted after being scolded, I can only endure it." Shao, why didn't I think this ninjutsu had so many seals before? Shenyu. Shio said, didn't he the child across the street even form many seals just now? Zishen Mao, hey. Why does Sayo suddenly feel a little cold? Zichao Shenyu. It's finally almost over, just wait, boy. Shio, what are those hanging under your noses? Ice skater. RQIU. What CO? Which seal did my special code just get? No. There's something wrong with this kid. Of course the two men, red and yellow, also noticed something strange. I don't know when the ground under my feet turned into ice, and the water vapor just now reflected the crystal light under the setting sun. Also, it's almost summer here. How could you still be so breathless when you open your mouth? The man in the red scarf was better. Because he was a fire attribute, he was relieved a lot after mobilizing chakra. However, Huang and Lan could only watch as white frost formed on their bodies at a speed visible to the naked eye. It's water. Get out of here. You want to retreat now. It's too late. I don't know. When the clone appeared on the side and pointed forward with his right hand. Water dragon. Whoa. A water dragon that was even thicker than before soared into the sky again. How is this possible? 3 disbelieving voices sounded at the same time. Water Dragon Bullet is a B-level ninjutsu. What the hell is this kid? They have already used water dragon bombs twice and even created a shadow clone under their noses. How could a child have so much chakra? Damn. The man in red scarf cursed secretly. If it was just him, he could escape, but the two guys next to him were almost frozen to death. If he escaped by himself, they would never be able to escape. Fire escape. The technique of big fireball. A fireball larger than before shot into the sky. It's nothing more than a bigger ninjutsu duel. There's no way I, as an adult, would lose to a child. At most, the burst of water vapor will make the current situation more difficult. Boom, the water dragon and the fireball collided in the blink of an eye. However, to the surprise of the man in red scarf, he did not see any water vapor coming out this time. After a brief pause, the fireball suddenly dispersed with a bang, and an ice dragon, all crystal white, as if covered with a layer of bright silver armor, was swooping in with unparalleled power. What? The eyes of the 3 people suddenly widened. Not a water dragon? How come it turned into an ice dragon when it touched a fireball? You. At the last moment, the 2 men in blue and yellow suddenly glared at the man in red scarf at the same time. Are you a traitor? Are you a mole? Boom. Kakaka. Unfortunately, they will never know the answer to this question in their lifetime. Such a big ice dragon was hit and crushed until it turned into mud. Chapter 39. Today we brothers are united. Teacher Lucasa. The enemy's effective forces were eliminated here, and Senju Zinzuki and the others immediately came to support them. When the strongman leader and his 3 remaining subordinates saw this, they felt a burst of pain in their hearts. It's okay for adults to be so difficult to deal with, but I didn't expect 3 children to be so difficult to deal with. A Sharingan, a Byakugan, and one without special eyes, but capable of ice escape. What? What's this about riding a horse? What kind of family is this set up? Can the people of Konoha village be so arrogant? Exclamation mark. It seems we can't get it done today. No matter how many times I calculated, I still didn't expect that the children in Konoha village would be like this. Thinking of this, the strongman leader had the idea of escape in his heart, and his eyes to scan between several of his subordinates began, and Senju Zenai and others. Boom. The closed door not far away was suddenly opened vigorously. The strongman looked back when he heard the sound, only to find that the remnants of the Earth Spider clan who had been watching inside were running out menacingly. Damn. Obviously, these guys saw the situation reversed, so they all ran out and beat up the drowned dog. This is it. This is it's really like a tiger falling flat and being bullied by a dog. A plucked phoenix is not as good as a chicken. But no matter how angry I feel, there is really nothing I can do to solve the current situation. Now I can only find a way to escape and come back to settle the score with these old men when I have the opportunity in the future. How many of you? The strong man suddenly said in a deep voice to the younger brothers around him. I will use my strongest moves to hold them back later, and you guys can take the opportunity to run away. Boss. The younger brothers, who were still feeling uneasy about their situation, could hardly believe their ears and looked at their boss in shock. Hehe. A faint smile appeared on the strong man's face. As the boss, I failed to lead you to eat meat and enjoy happiness. Instead, I brought you all to this situation. It is my fault as the boss. Today, let me use my life to repent and open up a path for you. The last road. Boss. I didn't expect that the boss who only knows how to curse could actually say such words. The three younger brothers were really moved, and their loyalty surged in their chests for a moment, and they all shouted to the boss not to give up. Boss, we accept you as the boss voluntarily. We still have 4 people, plus the boss, you, a Jonin. There is no chance that we will give it a try. Yes, boss, lead us to fight again. That's right, boss, fight. It is good. The strong man seemed to be moved by their enthusiasm. He threw the long knife to the ground with a clang, and faced Narushikaku side by side with his brothers, and said with great pride, let's use our strongest moves together. Today I will lead everyone to try again. It is good. We can definitely do it. Bow. Tuten. The boss took the lead, and the 3 younger brothers also used their strongest ninjutsu. The shouts of fire release, wind release and thunder release sounded almost at the same time. Art fire escape ho fireball. Wind escape. Strong wind palm. Lay done. Let's go. Although they were just a group of wild ninjas, Senju Mayuki did not dare to underestimate the desperate counterattack. She hurriedly stepped forward into steps, then opened her hands and pushed forward. Ice wall. In an instant, a slightly curved ice wall blocked several people behind. Boom. Who crack. Fireballs, strong winds, thunder and lightning. 3 ninjutsu that contained a desperate will to crack the ice wall one after another. However, with Senju Mayuki's desperate spiritual infusion, it quickly returned to its original state. Damn brat. If you add the boss's earth escape, he will definitely be unstoppable. That's right. If you add the boss's earth escape, it will definitely be the boss's earth escape. Old boss. Only then did the 3 boys react and look at each other. Where is the shadow of the hairy figure nearby? Exclamation mark. Horse. That bitch actually took us. What? Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the distance. The people present quickly looked at the sound, and soon saw Narushikaku, who ran over at some point, holding his eyes to watch the strong man who had lost half of his life go away. Come over here. Really, if I'll let you run away like this, wouldn't I, a teacher, lose all face today? Shikaku sensei, it was the first time to fight so many enemies. Quan now looked obviously tired, but he still faced him immediately. Huh. When did Mr. Shikaku go over? Oh. Before Senju Mayuki could finish his sigh, he suddenly heard 3 younger brothers yelling and rushing towards teacher Shikaku. He was so frightened that he hurriedly chased after him, but after running 2 steps, he saw him aced unseen. Bleach Blanche. You bastard. You still pretend to be so upright. In the end, they treated us like fools. Bleach Blanche. Go to hell. Strong man. The health value that was originally less than 50% dropped sharply again, and now only the breath is left. Narushikaku and Izumi were both a little shocked by these guys. They watched the 3 younger brothers beat their boss until he was bloody. He couldn't even scream. Narushikaku finally ended up saying, Seal, use the shadow to pierce the 3 younger brothers. Tie them up. What are you still doing with them? Hinata Takuma also followed. Maybe it's because of the whites of their eyes. As long as Hinata's people aren't smiling, they always look very serious. They have committed such a big crime. Can't we just kill them? No. We plead guilty / confess / demand reform. Seeing their scoundrel looks, even Quan couldn't look past them and sneered, and the cold light of the short sword in his hand became even brighter. This regarding the students' questions. Narushikaku thought it would be better to explain. He slightly gestured to the people of the Earth Spider clan who had rushed nearby. These people have committed great crimes against the Earth Spider clan. Now the Earth Spiders must have someone to vent to, otherwise they will probably go crazy. X3 The 3 younger brothers suddenly froze, as if this is what happened. Kill us. We have committed a heinous crime. We deserve to die. Brother, not uncle, not ancestor. Quick, please. Kill us now. Wanna die. However, the spiders people had already arrived, and after hearing their words, they all smiled ferociously. You will die. But certainly not now. What? I was wrong. Please. Spare me. We are all just minions. That fat guy is the mastermind. The 3 thieves who completely lost the ability to resist were beaten until they cried for their fathers and mothers. I confess. You have a mole inside. We were able to break through the barrier so easily because of the support from someone inside you. It's also poisonous. The poison on your body was provided by us and given to you by the traitor. Chapter 40 The gap between the big and small ninja villages. In a ghost. The young spider boy's eyes turned red when he heard this. At this time, you still dare to talk nonsense and want to disrupt the unity of our clan. The young man was so angry that he stepped on the neck of a thief. Stop. An old shout suddenly came out, and the young man stopped reflexively, only to realize that it was Yazizing who had bloodstains on the corners of his mouth, and came out with the help of a middle-aged man. Patriarch? The young man's face was full of anger and he didn't understand why the old man wanted to stop him. Cough cough cough. The warrior paid no attention to him, but looked at everyone in Konoha. Seeing this, Naruto quickly winked at Senju Mayuki and the others, and then some of them jumped up to the old man. Sorry, we seem to be a little late. No, it's much already earlier than the agreed time. The traveler shook his head, not intending to shirk his responsibility. His eyes swept over Senju Zenyu and the others, and his eyes were lingering on them for a while, and then he continued, these people have committed heinous crimes against the Earth Spider clan. Can they be handed over to us? Otherwise, it will be difficult for me, the clan leader, to explain to the clan members. Of course. This coincided with what he had just planned. Thank you very much. The traveler waved his hand to the middle-aged man beside him, and motioned him to deal with the thieves. I wanted to entertain you well, but who would have thought? Oh, let's not talk about it anymore. If you don't mind, please come into the room and talk about it. Afterwards, through conversations with the war travelers, Naruto finally understood the general outline of the matter. The thief started to attack shortly after lunch, and the process was indeed the same as what the guy just said. No one noticed it beforehand. It was not until the enemy came to organize a counterattack that everyone discovered that they had been hit by a type of melting virus. Carrot's poison. This is also the reason why the Forbidden Arts guarding team of more than 20 people was beaten by such a group of crooked melons and crack jujubes and could only cower in the room. As for why we don't use forbidden magic to deal with them, when this question was asked, the guards all spoke out to dissuade it from being kept secret. However, the veteran still shook his head and gave the answer. It takes a certain amount of preparation time to activate Wrathful Sky. I didn't think of using it at the beginning of the battle, but then I wanted to use it, but there was no suitable environment. The traveler also said that in fact, in the end, they retreated into the house and relied on the barrier to support themselves, already thinking of dying together. The power of the angry sky is so great that once it strikes, the entire top of the mountain will be reduced to dust. According to them, in fact, from the moment they returned to the house, Yakuza no Kaigoku had already begun to accumulate natural energy. If everyone in Konoha village had come half an hour later, Mount Kachiraji would definitely look different. During the subsequent conversation, someone came in to report the losses caused by the incident. After this battle, only 23 of the 8-person Forbidden Art Guard team remained, and all of them were injured. It's a trivial matter for other houses to be burned down. The most important thing is that the old man's most proud and most promising eldest disciple, Lang Tao, was also murdered. Judging from the state of the body, it seems that it was already cold when the outermost barrier was just broken. Angry Sky is a very special forbidden technique. The operator needs specific talents and long-term training. It does not mean that whoever gets it can use it directly. Therefore, the death of Lang Tao will undoubtedly have a huge blow to the warriors of. The old man is already this old. How can he still have time to train the next heir? What's more, even if he wants to grit his teeth and persist, he must have such talents for him to cultivate. This incident has really reached the point of breaking the bones for the Earth Spider clan. Sigh. It seems that our Earth Spider clan shouldn't have such a forbidden technique. After listening to the report, Yashizing's whole body seemed to have collapsed. When I saw the tired but energetic Senju Mayuki and the others, there was still a little light shining in their eyes. It would be great if these 3 children were from the Earth Spider clan. Even if it's not all of them, just one of them will do. Then the old man would die in peace now. Oh, this is the difference. I can't envy you. Patriarch. Hearing the frustration in the old man's words, the few remaining young guards didn't even bother to bandage their wounds. They hurriedly stood up and advised, "Please don't say such things again, Patriarch. This time we were careless and were poisoned by someone. Otherwise, how could these guys be our opponents today?" "Yes, Patriarch." Clan leader, think twice. The angry sky is the foundation of our Earth Spider clan. We cannot live without this forbidden technique. "Yes, Patriarch. You must think twice." The young guards were also anxious, that they were almost sweating. The traveler didn't interrupt them, he just listened quietly. It wasn't until several of them were exhausted from talking that they looked around and said softly, "Have you finished speaking? Now that you've finished speaking, just listen to what I have to say." The room quickly fell into silence, and although the guards were unwilling to do so, they had no choice but to sit down and listen. Ever since our clan showed the wrath of heaven to the eyes of the world, although we have gained the title of one strike can destroy a city among countless people, but when we think back carefully, what substance has this forbidden technique really brought to our clan? Are there any benefits to sex? Indeed, because of the existence of forbidden arts, many big forces will not easily provoke us, but other than that, thieves, wandering ninjas, all kinds of rebellious ninjas. From the time our family settled here until now, I can't even remember how many times there have been battles to snatch forbidden arts. And every time, it means that our precious people have made sacrifices for this. As a forbidden technique, it cannot benefit the tribe, and requires a tribesman to constantly sacrifice their lives to protect it. Is such a forbidden technique really worth risking the fate of the entire tribe to pass it on? But clan leader, if there were no arts forbidden, wouldn't our clan be? Okay, you guys go down first. I still have something to talk to the envoys from Konoha village. Patriarch. Go down. Yes, Heesing's tone rarely increased, but when he saw the guard's eyes red with anxiety, he finally couldn't help but sigh. "I will consider it carefully. You go down first, and give me some time. Don't let Konoha's envoys see the joke." Ugh. The guards stamped their feet anxiously, but after the clan leader said so, they had no choice but to obey the orders and leave. The warrior looked at Senju Mayuki and the others, and then said to the middle-aged man who had been standing beside him, "Dunby, please take the 3 children to rest first. Remember to prepare some snacks, candies and other things that children love to eat for them." "Yes." Dunby took the order. Senju Mayuki and the others looked at Narashikaku, and when they saw him nodding, they got up and followed him out, leaving only 2 representatives of the forces talking in the room for a long time. As for what they talked about, Narashikaku didn't mention a word. After he came out, Senju Mayuki and the others understood that this matter should be kept confidential, so they didn't ask again after that. That night, even though the situation was miserable, the non-service traveler still tried his best to entertain the 4 people. It's just that the host has encountered this kind of thing, and now everyone is still poisoned. Naturally, they can't eat and drink carelessly. They just simply filled their stomachs and took the initiative to take on the task of night watch patrol. Most of the next day was spent taking care of the funeral arrangements of the deceased. Senju Mayuki and the others still served as guards. As for the subsequent investigation of the insider and how to deal with the remaining thieves, it is not something that outsiders like them can get involved in. Chapter 41 Blanche. If I were then, that wave shouldn't have been played like that. We obviously have such a good venue advantage, but what is the use of it? On the evening of April 5th, during the shift break, Senju Mayuki was lying on the bed with the afternoon battle replaying in his mind. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that he had not performed well in the afternoon battle. The more I think about it, the more I feel that I behaved like an idiot this afternoon. On May 5th, while patrolling and guarding, I happened to pass by the place where yesterday's battle took place. When the first water dragon exploded, I should have spread the water vapor to them. Then use the clones to attract their attention, and the main body will directly use all the mental power to ensure that the 3 guys will freeze into ice pimples in an instant. Alas, I was still excited. I lacked combat experience and didn't perform well. On May 5th, on the way back, while I was kicking branches in the woods, when the clones came up, they shouldn't have been using water dragons. You should just use ice skates to give them a shower. Directly TM the troll to wash your face. December 5th. Right, my specialty is controlling water and ice. Just pump out the water and entangle the three of them until they die or drown. What kind of water dragon is this? So fancy. Really, I think I feel handsome. Low, too low. On the afternoon of May 5th, when I returned home and took the key to open the door. That's not right. My abilities are mainly freezing and cold. I should freeze them immediately after the water vapor spreads. I should be more decisive at that time. Or just give them a rain. What kind of water dragon is this? Really? As long as you put more rain on them, you can do whatever you want with them. Well, I'm still young. My reaction on the spot is too weak. This time the fight was indeed flawed. Now that I think about it, if I meet them again next time, I will definitely perform better than this time. Click turn the key to open the door, and the moment you push the door in, wrong. The three of them have been crushed into mud. Where will I meet them next time? My special code. Damn it, all I have been thinking about these 3 days is the three of them as imaginary enemies. Next time. Will you go there next time you encounter a ghost? Fake. Then I have been acting like a crazy person these past few days. I just want to take advantage of the opportunity and make it look like the real thing. I think hard about what I should use in the first step, how the opponent will respond, and then what I should use. Skill counterattack. Fake. Naruto office. The above is the entire process of this escort mission. It was really hard to rush back all the way, so after returning to the village, Naruto asked the students to go back and rest first, while he came to report to the Third Hokage about the mission. On the other hand, there are some things that still need to be decided by the Hokage himself. That's right, the Third Hokage sat behind the table, holding the handwritten handwriting of Yakuza no Kaigoku. After listening to the mission briefing, he did not reply immediately. Instead, he read the handbook silently. He pondered for a while, before nodding with a smile wrote, "Okay, since you think this method is feasible, then go with it as you discussed." "Yes, Hokage-sama." Naruto responded, and after finishing, he suddenly scratched his head and dryly, "Come to think of it, these three students of mine are not quick talkers." The Third Hokage was stunned for a moment, and then he smiled, and shook his head. "Indeed, I have forgotten the temperament of these three little guys." After speaking, the old man pondered for a moment and said, "Okay, I will arrange this, so you don't have to worry. You'd better pay attention to the three children. After all, they are still babies. They may not adapt to the first time they see blood. You must comfort them as soon as possible. I have countless tasks waiting here. What about you? All right." I roughly recalled the performance of the students in the past 2 days. Although they all seemed normal, it was possible that they were holding on and might explode as soon as they returned to a familiar place. As the leading teacher, he did have the ability to this responsibility. "Then I'll take my leave first." The third generation nodded and continued to read the file, but before Naruto could take 2 steps, he suddenly remembered something and called out to him, "Oh, by the way, there's one more thing. Please tell me. Tsunade came back 2 days ago. Remember to take little May to visit." "Really? Is Tsunade-sama back?" Naruto's eyes suddenly lit up. He really respects Tsunade, one of the 3 ninjas. It is no exaggeration to say that it has even reached the point of worship and admiration. "I will, Hokage-sama." Naruto's spirit was obviously lifted a lot. Tsunade-sama is often away from the village, and now that she finally comes back, she must pay a visit. Even if there is no such thing as Senju Mayuki as a student, it is the same. Let's go." This time, the third generation old man didn't call him back. But after Naruto left, he no longer had the intention to continue reviewing the files. Get up and walk to the glass window, looking at the endless stream of pedestrians on the street outside, the sincere smiles on each of their faces, and the children running by from time to time laughing and playing. The contents of the Anbu report not long ago came to mind again. Do you lack the means to defeat the enemy with one blow? As he thought about it, the corners of the third generation old man's mouth could not help but curl up. According to Anbu's report, the performance of the 3 children during this scroll escort mission was remarkable. Not only did no one complain about being tired on the way, but they were also able to face a real and bloody fight for the first time after arriving. Adjust quickly. A jounin and 3 students who had just walked out of school were able to annihilate a group of 3 to 30 desperados without any injuries. Even though Narashikaku, the leading teacher, played a decisive role, it did not affect the old man's high praise of the performance of several children. As for what the Anbu said, Senju Mayuki's ice escape ability is more than enough to control the scene, but not enough to kill enemies and win. The old man did listen to it, but so what? A child who was less than 8 years old, in his first serious battle, he single-handedly killed 3 fugitive ninjas who were licking blood from their blades. Even if the opponents are all genin, this record is already very impressive, right? What else is there to be dissatisfied about? Exclamation mark. Yes, in fact, the old man's mouth was almost full of joy. How could I be dissatisfied with such a good seedling? B-level mission, what kind of reward should I choose? How long has it been? Once people get older, they can't help but remember the past. Looking at this peaceful village under his own governance, the 3rd generation old man couldn't help but recall the time when he took care of his students. It's been so long. Ever since Tsunade, Orochimaru and Jiraiya grew up, the old man has not experienced this kind of happy trouble for more than 10 years. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42. Big, grand, great, huge. Tsunade-sama is back. Really? Neither Izumi nor Takuma showed any resistance to being summoned again after less than 2 hours apart. Even when they heard that they were going to visit Tsunade-sama, Izumi was so excited that she couldn't sit still. Of course you have to be excited. That's Tsunade-sama. Anyone who is a woman will admire her, right? Kwan explained his gaffe like this. Although Hinata Takuma is not like Izumi, you can clearly see the anticipation on the young man's face. That guy's eyes are brighter than usual. As for Senju Mayuki, it goes without saying that anyone can refuse to go, except him. A group of 4 people, led by Narashikaku, knocked on the door of Tsunade's residence. As a princess appointed by the daimyo of the Land of Fire, it is not too much to have a house with a yard. Come on, a clear voice came from inside. Immediately, I heard the sound of Tadadada footsteps approaching quickly. When the door was opened from the inside, I saw a slightly petite face peeking out. Hey, is it Shikaku-senpai? The girl was the first to speak out in surprise. Narashikaku reacted immediately after hearing her voice. Ah, it's Shizune, long time no see. Ahaha. I can't help it. I have been following Tsunade-sama everywhere recently. Shikaku-senpai is here to visit Tsunade-sama, right? Please come in. This topic changed. Hard enough. These 3 children, could it be that they are the students Shikaku-senpai is currently teaching? Yes, because of some reasons. What, it turns out to be your boy. I thought it was the old man who came. As I was walking and talking, I suddenly heard a dissatisfied voice coming from the front. Several people immediately followed the sound and saw that the main door of the main hall was open at this time. A young woman wearing a green dress was leaning on the table regardless of her appearance. She took out a wine bottle from under the table with one hand. Pour yourself another drink while still muttering, really, they don't let me do this or that as soon as I come back. It's so annoying. Seeing such a scene, and then looking at the disbelief on the faces of my students, Narashikaku scratched his head and showed a wry smile. Tsunade-sama, is this really okay? I have 3 minors who admire you with me. Tsunade-sama, please don't do this. Shizune was going half crazy. Image. Your image is a powerful woman, one of the 3 ninjas. Respect. Must show respect. The little girl almost gritted her teeth and ran over to grab the wine bottle and wine glass and then stuffed them into an invisible corner as quickly as possible. Tsunade, who already looked a little drunk, seemed to react a little slower. It wasn't until Shizune finished her work and was wiping her sweat that she blinked in hindsight, looked at the empty table again, and suddenly slapped the table and shouted, "Get up, Shizune, what are you doing? Why are you putting away my wine?" Oh. Obviously what he did was right, but he still got scared and acted cute when he heard Tsunade get angry. This is Shizune. Regarding this development, what should Naruto say? It's a bit surprising, and it feels like this is the familiar Tsunade-sama. But after all, I brought students to visit today, and I couldn't just watch them continue. So after coughing dryly under Tsunade's unhappy gaze, I went up and knelt down at the table. Long time no see. Tsunade-sama, these are the students I'm taking care of now. They just returned from the mission at noon. When I heard the news of your return, I immediately brought them to visit you. Oh. Without the wine, Tsunade's mood was obviously not very high. Although she didn't look coldly at the juniors, she just glanced at them casually and passed by. You guy, have you reduced yourself to taking care of a child now? How should I say this? Actually, I didn't think of it myself, however, you must not be so casual when talking to Tsunade-sama. So after thinking for a moment, Naruto smiled and looked at his student a few times, but his expression was extremely serious when he spoke. Although they are still young, they are all excellent. I'm very proud and honored to be their leading jounin. Oh. When he said this, Tsunade was slightly surprised. Hinata, Senju, Uchiha. She saw her eyes looking at the three children one by one, especially after noticing the details of Hinata Takuma's eyes rolling, and the fact that this little girl would subconsciously lean towards Senju Mayuki under her gaze. Suddenly sarcastically said, "Ha, that old man really dares to think you he." Naruto was not surprised at all that Tsunade-sama would see the purpose and deep meaning of the Third Hokage in creating this 9th class and specifically allowing him to lead the team. But for her blatant ridicule, he could only laugh twice and pretend not to hear. Just kidding, there's no one in the whole village that she wouldn't dare to confront. Hey, kid. Just when she was distracted, Tsunade was already chatting with the students over there, and I saw her curling her fingers at Senju Mayuki. You are called. My name is Senju Mayuki, your highness Princess Tsunade. Whether it was because of his own personality, or considering that he had been invisibly helped by this woman's influence many times in the past 2 years. In short, during the first conversation, Senju Mayuki was very polite in terms of etiquette. Princess. Tsunade's eyes were obviously absent-minded for a moment, and she obviously didn't expect to hear someone call herself that. But it really only lasted for a moment, and then she came back to her senses, pretending to be shy, and pulled Senju Mayuki into her arms. You kid, you are surprisingly good at talking. Ugh. Well. Big. Mr. Your Highness the Princess. Too big. Also, please, take a deep breath. Simply magnificent. Great. It feels like my whole head has sunk into an abyss. I can't help myself. Breathe. There's not enough oxygen either. Only deep breathing can relieve the dizziness caused by hypoxia. Please don't do this. Hisso, how old are you, little brat? Why are you so ashamed? Tsunade was just excited to make a joke with the child. Just when she was about to let go, she suddenly saw that the corners of the little girl's mouth were almost pursed into a straight line, thinking of the little girl's subconscious action of leaning closer to Senju Mayuki just now, and then looking at the little Shota who was struggling in her chest. Tsunade's eyes rolled slightly, and suddenly a less obvious expression appeared on her face. Smirk. Okay, I saw her slowly loosening her arms, as if she was just having a little fun. However, when Senju Mayuki just pulled out the head with all the hard work, she suddenly asked again abruptly. One sentence. Is it big? Big? Too big? Spring. Really? I was really just stunned. So after hearing this question, Senju Mayuki nodded subconsciously. I feel dizzy. Eddie admire. Boom. Chapter 43. How can a person wander around the world without a trick? On May 5th, at the training ground near Senju Mayuki's home in the east of the village, 3 students from class 19 were undergoing their own training. In fact, I was supposed to have a rest today. After all, he had just completed a B-level mission. It was normal for him to rest for 2 or 3 days before going on a mission again. Teacher Shikaku also requested this. It's just the 3 of them. No, neither Koizumi nor Hinata Tokugawa have a lazy temper, and recalling the battle a few days ago, the 2 of them couldn't stay still. Here, Senju Mayuki saw that there were only 3 people in the class, and both of them had started practicing, so why not take a break? It's better than volume, right? Ro. I dare not say anything else, but I have never convinced anyone in this regard. Do you know that I was directly involved until death in my last life? So, today's scene happened. It is said to be a group training, but in fact most of the time the three of them are studying their own things. Izumi has become very proficient in using Sharingan. All she needs is more chakra and physical strength. These are things that can only be seen through long-term training. So she is studying a trick that Zanzuki told her. Gather the thunder attribute chakra in one hand and use the dynamic vision of the Sharingan and the super speed of the thunder attribute to perform lightning-like thrust attacks. The conscience of heaven and earth. It's not that Senju Mayuki doesn't want to teach. It's just that, when I watched the anime, I didn't remember what seals Kakashi used when using Reikari, so I can only come up with a concept and let her do it herself. Went to explore. If you can't use Reikari, you still have Chidori. It's just that the amount of chakra consumed is different. Anyway, it all means the same thing. It's not much different. Hyuga Takuma inherited Izumi's Ice House trial. Hey, when I talk about this Takuma-san, I just want to shout, heaven has given me a great responsibility. Ever since he once saw Senju Mayuki using this move to train Izumi, the young man was so excited on the spot that he couldn't help himself. I think this mechanism is simply tailor-made for my own white eyes. So that's it. Every time when training starts, Senju Mayuki will get a clone to throw marbles to the friends. What can you say about this? In the past, it was okay to practice with cute girls, but not with friends. It doesn't make sense. We are all in the same team, so the difference in treatment cannot be so obvious compared to the two of them. Senju Mayuki has more to think about. How can I take advantage of my ice abilities? He also discovered his shortcomings in the last battle, lack of attack methods to quickly eliminate the enemy. How about making balls like Naruto? But water is just fine for rubbing, but ice. How should I rub it? Come, eat my spinning ice skate. Trouble. And because of the characteristics of ice ability, he still prefers to deal with enemies remotely as much as possible. Remote. I remember there was a whistling guy in Marvel. Thinking of this, Senju Zenai couldn't help but stretched out his right hand and pulled out an ice arrow about 30 centimeters long. It is 2 fingers thick, completely transparent, and the arrow is sharp and diamond shaped. In addition, because the power entirely on one's own mental power, there is no need for arrow fletching. Try the control range first. With a thought, the ice arrow rose to pens into the sky and then slowly flew forward 5 meters, 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, 4. No, it feels like a delay. 353,303,130. 30 meters. That's almost the dividing line now. As for further, after thinking about it, I decided to test my limits. 5,060,801,001. No, it becomes more difficult to control beyond 100 meters. 30 meters? Not bad with the current physical and mental strength. It feels smoothest within 30 meters. Within this range, it can almost be said that it is like an arm directing it, hitting wherever it is pointed. There is a feeling of network delay in the distance between 30 meters and 100 meters, but if you insist on persisting, I think you can get used to it. It's completely useless beyond 100 meters. It felt like a small horse pulling several rear wheels, and the tail flick was particularly serious. For the current Senju Mayuki, the limit of ability is beyond 100 meters, which is not something he can pull with his physique. Now that we have the distance, here's the speed and lethality. Well, in fact, speed and lethality are directly proportional. Most of the time find a tree surrounded by 2 people and walk about 30 meters. Because it was a test, I didn't expend too much mental energy for the first time, probably to the extent that it wouldn't feel strenuous. Go. 1, 2. Duo in a little more than 2 seconds, less than 3 seconds. The ice arrow was stuck on the tree trunk, and the entire arrow was inserted, indicating that the lethality was still there. About 10 meters per second. Pull out the ice arrow and return to the original position. This time, prepare to try the fastest speed. Focusing on the tree trunk, his mental power continued to exert pressure on the outside of the ice arrow. When he felt that the output limit had been reached, go. Duo. Welch. Didn't even count 1. Almost as soon as he released it, the ice arrow penetrated directly into the trunk of the tree, and even penetrated into the second tree more than 10 meters behind with its remaining strength. The damage is not bad, but the consumption is also extraordinary. Just one shot like this feels like a 322 pothead. Moreover, there were signs of damage on the ice arrows, especially the arrow parts. Almost the entire tip is worn away, which would definitely affect continuous combat if it were in battle. Then strengthen the hardness of the ice arrow. As we all know, the hardness of ice is inversely proportional to temperature. At 0 deg point C, the hardness is 12, at minus 50 degrees, the hardness can reach 6, and at minus 70 degrees, it can even reach Moss 7, which is harder than granite. Isn't it just to create low temperature? Holding the broken ice arrow in one hand, he closed his eyes to concentrate, and then began to pour mental power into the ice arrow crazily. Minus 15, minus 30, minus 50, minus 75. In fact, he didn't know exactly how many degrees below zero it was. In short, looking at the ice arrow exuding a hint of cold air in his hand, Senju Mayuki was sure that this was the lowest temperature he could get at the moment. After adjusting his breathing again, the ice arrow soared into the sky again. But this time, instead of aiming at the tree trunk, I chose a stone half a man's height, 30 meters. Hiss. Take a deep breath, hold your breath, and then apply external pressure to the ice arrow. Go. Ding. There was only a small collision sound. When Senju Shinetsu came closer, he discovered that the entire ice arrow was inserted into the stone. Although it cannot be seen from the outside, through perception, it can be determined that the ice arrow has penetrated at least half a meter. More than that, although it's a bit of a pity, since I can't take it out anyway, I just tried another idea that came to my mind. Burst. It's not an explosion, but an explosion of cold air in the ice arrow. Crack, knock. As soon as the idea started, a clear cracking sound was heard from inside the stone, and the surface of the stone was instantly covered with white ice. I'll go, is the effect so direct? After thinking about it, he clenched his right fist and pulled out a glove. Then he took a few steps back and hit the arrow hole with a charged punch. Kakaka crash. Countless stone fragments were scattered on the ground. Just one punch. This stone that was half a man's height shattered into a pile. Chapter 44. Do you want money? Let's teach you medical ninjutsu. At around 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Senju Mayuki went out after dinner and walked dozens of meters south and finally entered Tsunade's house. Facts have proved that despite Tsunade's careless appearance, she actually still wants to take care of her people. It all starts with yesterday's meeting. After the initial greetings, looking at the only good seedling in the clan, Tsunade thought about it and felt that she should give some benefits. Otherwise she would always feel a little bit uncomfortable. But for what? First of all, as one of the most well-known fat sheep in the world, if you ask for money, you will definitely not have it. There are almost all the things that can be pawned and sold. As for the most valuable necklace on my body, of course I don't even think about it. What should I do? Teach him gambling or drinking? He is still a minor. After thinking for a long time, I finally made the final calculation. Let's teach him medical ninjutsu. This is my specialty. It just so happens that team is not equipped with medical ninjas. The other two little guys, one Byakugan and the other Sharingan, are not suitable for this kind of thing. The most important thing is that the little guy's ice escape is still useful when it is necessary to stop bleeding or preserve fresh organs. As for Tsunade's sudden decision, although Senju Mayuki has already prepared the great logistics of Yakushika Buto, although what he wants to learn more is the way to use power to blow up a mountain with one punch. But since the other party has proposed it, as the one being taken care of, I can't refuse without a serious reason. And to be honest, he actually thinks that there are some benefits to learning medical ninjutsu. At least in terms of functionality, it should be worth the price of admission in many cases. In general, it is not a loss. So the two finally agreed that, while Tsunade stayed in the village, Senju Mayuki would spend the hours after dinner and before going to bed to come to her house to study. Tsunade-sama, I'm here. When I entered the room, I saw Tsunade standing at the table busy with something. As for the title Her Royal Highness, just forget it. One's shouting was tongue-tied, and the other's whole body got goosebumps. He might as well shout his name like everyone else. Tsunade fiddled with it a few more times, and then stepped away from the table. Only then did Senju Mayuki see a pile of scrolls already placed on the table, as well as a motionless octopus. I heard that, although you are young, you have a very flexible mind and strong perseverance. Senju Mayuki followed the instructions and pulled up a stool, walked to the table, and stood on it. My perseverance is strong. It's really strange to be on horseback. Who knows me so well? Medical ninjas are different from fighting types. They not only require meticulous chakra control, but also learn a lot of professional knowledge, a flexible mind and strong perseverance. According to Shikaku, the only thing you lack among these qualities is professional knowledge. But this is the least of the problems for you. You are still young, and have plenty of time to study slowly. As for the first step, you should start with this octopus that has entered a state of suspended animation. Suspended animation state, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Upon hearing this, Senju Mayuki reached out and touched the octopus's head. Fortunately, it had been processed, and it didn't feel sticky or anything like that, including, but not limited to the one you mentioned. Tsunade said, stepping back and sitting on the sofa, and then waved to the side. Shizune immediately handed over the wine glass conspicuously, and gave Tsunade a happy shout, before taking a drink first. To resuscitate a creature that has entered a state of suspended animation, the general method is to use chakra to stimulate the heart or brain. Manshang, the octopus has an ordinary heart and 2 gills, and an accessory brain on each leg. Zah. It feels so good to have a drink before going to bed. Tsunade-sama, please be more serious. You are teaching students now. What? Every time they talk about this guy, they praise him to the heavens. Why do I need to teach him a little bit? He's so good. Forget it, just be happy. Use chakra to stimulate the heart or brain. I chose to start with an octopus because it has many important organs, so it is easier to achieve results. Although you say that, you still really want to teach me. Form seals, extract chakra, and gather it into your hands. Of course, the chakra used here must be of yang attribute. As a descendant of the Senju clan, it is normal for chakra to have yang attributes, right? Be slow, don't rush. Gently hang your hands a few centimeters above the octopus, and then control the delivery of chakra into the octopus. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, no response. Too little chakra. Then a little more. You can try to resuscitate a single leg first. Suddenly a soft voice came from beside me. Thank you, senior sister Shizune in this room. Who else could speak so softly but her? You don't have to be so polite. Although he is an adult, he is still so easily excited by a word, and he is still muttering in a low voice, senior sister or something. Shizune, why are you traveling so far? Pour the wine. The shy girl went crazy instantly. Tsunade-sama, can't you be more restrained in front of children? Wine. Hurry up and get the wine. Jinyan, get the wine. Ugh. The previous day Mayo of the Land of Fire must have been furious when he saw that he had made such a thing a princess. Just like this, while finding the rules on my own, under Shizune's guidance and Tsunade's noise pollution, I kept trying for almost an hour, but I still couldn't see any reaction from the octopus. Even the adult soul of Senju Mayuki couldn't help it, getting a little impatient. The most important thing is to maintain the chakra output state all the time, and get tired easily. What, it's a shame they still praise you like a genius I haven't seen in hundreds of years. Tsunade-sama, you know the difficulty of medical ninjutsu best. How can anyone master it in an hour? It seems like he is complaining, but he is actually telling Senju Mayuki that this situation is normal, and that he must not be hit by Tsunade's trash talk. Poor Shizune, she has already mastered all kinds of butt wiping skills at just an adult. Hey, kid. Tsunade's whole face was flushed, and she didn't know how many drinks she had drank in the past hour. Considering her current young appearance, it really made people a little wary. I heard that you changed the reward of this mission into a chakra weapon and gave it to the little girl from the Uchiha family. Hey, do you know what happened just this afternoon? What the hell? I heard that there were only a few birdies in the office at that time. Who else could you listen to? Yes. Oh, you kid, you are indeed interested in other girls. Really? Such a young guy knows how to please girls. This is a very long tone, which can express the ridicule in the tone. That's not the case. Tsunade-sama, I don't have it. I'm not it. Don't talk nonsense. I just think it's better to focus on ice escape than to learn another ninjutsu with other attributes. Then you can also change it to something else that is useful. However, Tsunade did not waver. Her face still had that I have seen through your kid's mind expression. Or wouldn't it be better to convert it into cash like that boy from the Hyuga family and bring a little extra income to the family? Forgive me for not agreeing with your words, Tsunade-sama. Having said this, Senju Mayuki's body straightened slightly, and his whole person seemed to suddenly become bright and majestic. I don't know much about the Hinata family, so it's hard to say anything. But I think I know a lot about Izumi. She has the 3 attributes of thunder, wind, and fire, as well as ice skills like the Sharingan. So I think, if she is equipped with a weapon that can divert chakra more smoothly, the strength of our team will definitely be able to reach a high level in a short time. In that case, we will be able to accomplish more better mission. Rather than cutting costs, why not find ways to increase revenue? Compared with more B-level or even A-level mission rewards, I think this kind of effort is very worthwhile. I'm the best, perfect, neither humble nor arrogant. The more you talk, the more energetic you become. As he talked later, even he almost believed that he really thought so. Chapter 45 Mission in the Kingdom of the Sea. It was sunny on March 6th. After another half month of watering the ground, catching cats, and cleaning up the river, class finally ushered in the second sea-level task: investigate and solve the Shenai incident in the Kingdom of the Sea. The Kingdom of the Sea is located in the border waters and consists of many islands of different sizes. It's the branches in the woods again. By the way, if some experts from the past life saw this, they would probably have to give them an expert opinion saying that running like this is bad for the knees and frequently stepping on tree trunks can easily damage the environment, right? The so-called Shenai incident means that a person suddenly disappears without a trace. No matter whether he is alive or dead, he can no longer be found. It is as if he has completely disappeared from the world. Then, could it be that he fell into the sea and was washed away by the sea? Probably not. Narashikaku immediately shook his head without hesitation after hearing this. The residents of the Kingdom of the Sea rely on the sea for their livelihood, and the only means of transportation is boats. People like them who deal with the ocean all day long should not make mistakes like falling into the sea and being washed away. What's more, the Kamigakure incident is not an isolated incident. It has become so common that the lords of the Kingdom of the Sea have to go to Konoha village to seek help. To say that so many people were all washed away by the sea and there was not even a corpse, I can't find it. So this statement is too far-fetched, no matter how you think about it. Oh. Quan nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Unlike riding in a car in the previous life, it was very boring for the ninjas to travel. Moreover, we had to cross 2 countries this time, so most of the time they kept silent in order to save energy and only chatted a few words during the break. Teacher Shikaku, the information says that the Kingdom of the Sea has signed a military contract with the Kingdom of Water and will pay a large sum of money to it every year. Then why don't they go to the allies for help, but come to Konoha even further away? Where is the village? This problem may be related to Kirigakure village's policy of isolation from other countries in recent years. As a result, even as an ally, it is often difficult to deal with them smoothly. Regarding Izumi's question, Narashikaku only pondered for a moment before answering. It was obvious that he had given it serious consideration. Of course, it may also be because the Kingdom of the Sea cannot prove that the Shenai incident is an act of war, so it cannot be used as a reason for the Kingdom of Water to send out troops. Oh. We took a short rest and replenished some energy, actually just stuffing a few dog food into each person's mouth, and then continued on our way. In fact, the other 3 people were okay, they just had to hurry. The hardest part was for the young man from the Hinata family. Not only did he have to roll his eyes the whole time, at least he had to observe the situation in front, back, left, and right from time to time. Teacher Shikaku, there's a situation ahead. When Narashikaku heard the sound, he immediately stopped and raised his right fist. This kind of stopping method from extreme movement to extreme stillness. How should I put it? The physics teacher just wanted to commit suicide after seeing it. What happened? Others immediately gathered over, and all of them looked at Hinata Takuma. In the open space about 2 kilometers ahead, there is a group of people who seem to have been hijacked. The Hyuga guy didn't waste much time and opened his Byakugan again, observing and reporting the situation ahead. Looking at the situation, one side seems to be a caravan, and the other side has a smaller number of people, but everyone has chakra in their bodies. Hijacking a caravan. If everyone has chakra, the probability of wandering ninjas should be higher. What should we do? Do we need to go around? The teacher did not make a decision, so Hinata Takuma could only keep staring at the situation ahead. Logically speaking, a team like them, that goes out on a mission, should avoid accidents as much as possible. But he looked at his students. Whether it was Koizumi, who was in trouble, or Takuma, who asked whether they should go around, the expressions on their faces hinted that they still wanted to save them. On the other hand, Senju Mayuki, who had had a similar experience, looked calmer and did not have any emotions because of hearing such empathetic things. How is the opponent's strength? After thinking about it for a while, Narashikaku still felt that, if he was alone, he wouldn't say anything. If he wanted to save, he could save him. If he didn't want to save, he could just leave. But now there are several underage children around. Even if it is just for their psychological growth, if it is not too troublesome, it is best to try to save them. Sure enough, as soon as they heard him ask this question, the faces of the 2 little guys, Izumi and Takuma, suddenly showed a little joy. As for Senju Mayuki, who looks the calmest, good guy, I reached out and pulled out an ice arrow. This kid, is he playing the role of me, his teacher? An idea suddenly flashed through his mind that made him feel dumbfounded, but his attention was immediately diverted by the content of Hinata Takuma's report. In terms of chakra content, there is only one person who is almost the same as Shikaku Sensei, and there are 2 others with less chakra. The remaining 11 are almost the same as me. That is to say, it is very likely that there will be 1 Jounin, 2 Chunin, and 11 Genin. Narashikaku's brows couldn't help but frown slightly. Such an opponent was undoubtedly seriously overachieving for a team of students who had only graduated 3 months ago. Even though there were only 2 more Chunin and a few more Genin than the group of people we met last time at Mount Kachiraji, the difficulty could be said to have risen several levels. We'd better go see the situation first, before making a decision. At this time, Senju Mayuki suddenly stood up and suggested. Narashikaku looked at him, and then at the ice arrow suspended beside him. Yes, I almost forgot about Zio Zenryu's move. He has seen the power of this little thing before, and if he seizes the opportunity well, there is no chance of winning. Then everyone should stay hidden and let's go. Now that he had made his decision, Narashikaku was not unambiguous. He took the lead and fell to the ground, hiding his body and touching forward. A distance of more than 2 kilometers is basically just a pee for a ninja. After arriving at a certain bush, the leader Hinata Takuma suddenly made a gesture. Upon seeing this, the following people immediately slowed down and squatted down. Outside the bushes, there is an open space not far ahead. Even the carriages and people gathered in a large crowd. There must be hundreds at least. And the only people who circled them like chickens were the dozen or so people on the outside. Hey, what are you doing? Why don't I give you money? Don't hurt my people. An old voice suddenly came out from the crying and noisy crowd. It sounded like these businessmen were all from the same ethnic group. Ha, old man, what are you talking about? If I kill you, won't all the money belong to us? Ha. The more they beg for mercy, the more excited the thieves who control their destiny become. You can't do this, aren't you just doing it for money? How can you do this? The old man was still talking to them with his last hope, but Narashikaku and others had already observed the positions and movements of a wandering ninjas. He first pointed at himself. Then he pointed at the most awesome looking ninja outside the crowd, and then made a grabbing gesture from underneath. After finishing, he looked at Senju Mayuki again, pointed at the genin in the outermost circle holding various weapons, then looked at the ice arrows beside him, and finally gave him a questioning look. Are you confident that you can handle these little bastards? However, in response to his proposal, Senju Mayuki shook her head slightly. It's not that it can't be done, but looking at the group of wandering ninjas outside who thought they had the overall situation in hand, and had various misfortunes, he already had another more efficient idea and tactic in his mind. Chapter 46. This wave is an intelligence war. Teacher Shikaku, you still have the same plan as before. If Shikaku Senso's shadow catches that Jounin, he will use ice arrows to kill him instantly. If he doesn't catch it, he can also make a sneak attack while Teacher Shikaku's attention is attracted. Senju Zenyu is still confident enough about the speed of his ice arrow, and as long as the most troublesome Jounin can be dealt with immediately, it will be much easier for the remaining minions. The only thing to consider is distance. The caravan was not right next to the edge of the clearing, but was surrounded in the middle of the clearing. It was at least 100 meters away from the bush where they were. This means that Senju Mayuki cannot wait for the opportunity here, but must walk out of the trees and be exposed to the enemy's sight. But then the enemy would definitely be on guard, so how could things go exactly as smoothly as he imagined? Shikaku continued to look at his student. He believed that he could think of this question, and with the thinking ability of this little guy, he could definitely think of it, so after listening, he did not rush to interrupt or refuse. As for attracting the enemy's attention, the fact was exactly as he expected. Senju Mayuki's eyes moved to Kwan, or to be more accurate, it should be said that he looked into her eyes. Sharingan. Shikaku couldn't help but ponder for a moment when he saw this. Of course he knows what kind of evil reputation the Sharingan has outside, but now Izumi only has a Magatama Sharingan. Can he shoulder such a responsibility? Hey, if you want money, just take it, don't kill anyone. Shikaku sensei. The situation was urgent, and Izumi couldn't care less. He immediately looked at Shikaku anxiously and nodded. Zyro Zenyu said, I can do it, I believe I can do it. Shikaku also knew that now was not the time to hesitate. Finally, he looked at Senju Mayuki with a serious frown. Seeing that he still nodded so insistently, he had no choice but to make a decisive decision. He pointed at himself again. But this time he no longer just pointed at the Jounin, but after making a grabbing gesture, he pointed again at the two little looking guys not far away. Since the students are so motivated, as a teacher, I have to be cautious. Isn't yet just a little far away. Just 2 Chunin. What a big deal. Money, we give money, don't kill anyone again, okay. Ha 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 ha. Action. Taking advantage of the opportunity that most of the wandering ninjas were attracted by the old man's voice, Shikaku immediately took the lead and rushed out with a swish. And behind him, Senju Mayuki and Izumi followed him a little slower. Hyuga Takuma? Well, to be honest, the ancestral boxing techniques he learned are more focused on protection. This kind of surprise action is indeed a bit professional for him now, so Shikaku's request to him is to protect himself, don't beat him. PFFT. As soon as he stepped out of the bushes, Shikaku immediately made a shadow clone and came out. Then the clone was in front and the main body was behind. The Jounin's perception ability should not be underestimated. Before the few people here rushed out of the shadow of the woods, the wandering ninja boss over there suddenly turned his head and shouted in this direction. Big brother. The 2 Chunin reacted fastest. After hearing his shout, they immediately reached the Jounin's side. Where did you come from? I want him to look good. The genin were the slowest to react, but after all, they were wandering ninjas who licked blood from their swords every day. They were almost only a little slower than the 2 Chunin. They all came to their senses and rushed out one by one, screaming. Having said all this, it almost all happened in an instant. For Shikaku, who was rushing over quickly, it was still a bit difficult to deal with the 3 people who were originally standing apart, but now they just happened to give him a blow. A perfect chance. Good chance. The clone continued to draw attention by making seals in front of him, while the main body followed behind and kept overlapping and separating from the clone's figure. When the distance was close to a certain level, he suddenly rushed forward and crouched down, and the shadow under his feet moved very quickly. The speed passes through the shadow clone, and the speed increases even more after the 2 are superimposed. Shadow? It's the Nera clan of Konoha. As a Jounin, he must have some knowledge. When he saw the black shadow on the ground, he immediately shouted and wanted to jump away. Of course, he also knows that the opponent's first target must also be his strongest combat power. However, at this moment, his eyes suddenly glanced at the 3 people rushing over. The little girl's eyes turned out to be bloodthirsty scarlet. Sharingan. The shadow of the tree of man's name, the wandering Jonin, who originally thought it was just a minor trouble, suddenly had goosebumps all over his body. He hurriedly turned his head away and warned his brothers loudly, "Don't look into that girl's eyes. Go. Break." A faint light that was invisible to the naked eye instantly passed through the Jonin's chest. This is the opportunity Senju Mayuki has been waiting for. The bet is on the fear of the Sharingan among the outsiders and their lack of intelligence. Because of the low temperature, no blood flowed out where the ice arrow passed through, leaving only a hole that was instantly frozen. Cough, cough. Big brother? Big brother. The two Chunin next to him realized that something was wrong with him, but just as they were about to step forward, they suddenly found that their bodies suddenly stopped obeying for some reason. What happened? Why can't I move? Shadow imitation technique. Success. Yeah. The ice arrows that turned around pierced the necks of the two Chunin from the side, and then pierced the dying Chunin back and forth into a sieve. Achievement. Nerashikaku. The shadow clone, which only came out to shout a few times from beginning to end, showed a helpless smile, and then turned around to help Quan deal with the remaining minions. The boss is dead. Dang bang, do not kill me. When it comes to surrendering, once someone takes the lead, the people behind will take it for granted. Dang rang, dang rang, dang rang. Spring. Because the other Jonin said, "Don't look into her eyes." This was the first time she encountered an opponent who stared at someone and lowered their head. Oh my god, this was so fun. You continue to resist. Why did everyone throw their weapons on the ground in the blink of an eye? I'm having fun chopping here. Okay, it's so boring. Hey, hey, hey. The group of surrounded businessmen seemed to have just realized what had happened. The old man from before suddenly hugged the tribesman who fell in a pool of blood like a broken gong and cried bitterly, "My poor little May." The clones went to clean up the mess. Nerashikaku himself caught Senju Mayuki, who was looking at the genin again, and pulled him to the old man's side. He looked at the injured who was still coughing up blood, and then after looking at him, the meaning couldn't be more obvious. Never mind. In fact, Senju Mayuki wanted to leave no one behind. But teacher Shikaku has discouraged him like this, so he shouldn't be too stubborn thinking like this. He put down the still clean and smooth ice arrow next to him, then walked to the old man and squatted down, stretched out his hands, and pressed down on the injured person. He has been learning from Tsunade for more than half a month. Even a pig should learn something useful. He is a young genius who knows a little bit about healing wounds, stopping bleeding, reviving the dead, treating broken arms and legs, infertility, etc. There's nothing wrong with it. Chapter 47, The Terrifying Legend of Ghost World Island. Hey, 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 thank you so much. After spending more than 10 minutes barely resuscitating the injured, old man Heian began to grab Nerashikaku and kept saying words of thanks. "I'm the elder of this caravan, and my name is Heian. If you hadn't arrived in time, we don't know what fate we would have met today." Old man Heian wears an olive green hat with a white feather of unknown meaning on the top. In addition, the most eye-catching thing is that there is a small black and yellow feather on his shoulder. The animal is licking its fur, as if no one else is watching. We are a group of nationals without a territory. We travel and do business all year round. I've walked this road several times before, and there's obviously been no problems. It's all my fault. Before I set off, I was told that I should recruit some guards. I still have to thank you. Haha. Really? So that's what it is. The dignified elite Jonin of Konoha village almost fainted when the old man pulled his head and talked about it. It was not until the entire caravan was reorganized and ready to set off that he could barely cope with it. "You are Konoha ninjas, right? We will remember your kindness." Looking at the funny old man who stuck his head out of the carriage and shouted this before leaving, Nerashikaku could only smile and wave at him. It was not until he saw the old man retracting that he was completely relieved. Looking down at the students, who have long been out of their minds. "Haha, this uncle is really enthusiastic. Haha." Hey, Senju Mayuki shook her head, turned around and walked forward. "Let's get going as soon as possible." It obviously only took a few minutes to solve the problem, but it ended up taking almost half an afternoon just to chat with people. Fortunately, there were no emergencies in the rest of the journey. After driving for more than a day, the group of 4 finally arrived at the port closest to the Kingdom of the Sea before the time limit specified by the mission. Wow, it's so beautiful here, standing on the high hill on the shore, looking at the endless sea in the distance, blowing the slightly salty sea breeze. I instantly felt that the fatigue of the past 2 days seemed to have dissipated a lot. Yes, even Hinata Takuma, who has always had little sense of presence, rarely expressed his thoughts. Although Konoha village is a great ninja village well known throughout the ninja world, in terms of beautiful environment, it can't be compared to this place. But our village also has many advantages that others cannot match. Kwan, who looked satisfied just a second ago, suddenly became furious. Although what this snarky guy said is true, although I'm the first to praise the beautiful scenery here, but when she heard someone saying that her village was not good, she immediately changed her stance and refuted. There are many people and shops in our village. Everyone lives a happy and satisfied life. We also have the best ninja school and hospital, as well as so many caravans who come to Konoha to do business every day. And hehe, okay, what you said all makes sense. It's just from different angles. To be honest, Narashikaku was really happy to see that Izumi, a member of the Uchiha clan, was so eager to defend the village because of an unintentional remark. Because this not only means that the plan of the Third Hokage is already having a positive effect, but it also means that it is really possible to remove the gap between Uchiha and the village. What should we do now? Find a boat to get over? Looking at the calm sea, Senju Mayuki asked aloud. I don't know if it was affected by the Shenai incident, but it's still some time before the sun goes down, but the port is already full of fishing boats. Did you come back early? Or didn't go out at all? It won't go away today. Speaking of missions, Narashikaku also became serious. As a professional who plays with brains, of course, the things Senju Mayuki, a little kid, can discover and think of cannot be hidden from his eyes. Judging from the situation at this port, the people here are probably also affected by the Shenai incident. We will rest in this town today. Maybe we can find some useful clues. Yeah, that's great. Kwon was the first to give his approval to this decision. She hadn't had a proper shower for almost 3 days because of the rush. The little fairy is almost going sour. Here's the key to your room. Compared with the mission bonus, the room fee for one night is barely a drop in the bucket, so there is no need for Narashikaku to wrong himself and his students because of this little money. After handing out the keys, I glanced at the spring, where I couldn't wait to take a bath, and recalled the layout of the town I just saw on the high hill. I felt that I should be able to return to it soon if something happened, so I went, said to several students, if you're tired, go up and rest first. I'll take a look around and see if I can find anything. I'll go with the teacher. Senju Mayuki was stunned for a moment, but seeing Hinata Takuma's serious expression, she had no choice but to nod. Okay. If he goes with him, then he can't leave too. In this unfamiliar environment, a team of 2 and 1 is the minimum requirement, so that we can better respond to emergencies. Then let's go out first. If anything happens, we must send a signal in time. Yes. After a brief explanation, Narashikaku took Hinata Takuma out. As for the remaining 2, before Senju Mayuki could even think about what she was going to do later, she was pulled into the house by Izumi, who couldn't wait. Went to fill her bathtub with water. Is it because you saw Zenai's performance in the last battle that you became a little anxious? On the street outside, Narashikaku pretended to observe Hinata Takuma several times while walking. Although the scene just now seemed like a trivial matter, in the eyes of his teacher, it had a different meaning. That's right, no matter how sensible you are still just a minor. When you see your teammates who are a few years younger than you taking the spotlight in a battle, you will still feel unwilling to admit defeat. Looking at the serious expression on Hinata Takuma's face, Narashikaku couldn't help but nodded secretly in his heart, feeling that he had discovered the truth. Shikaku-sensei, where should we go to get information? There are not many pedestrians and vendors on the street. I wonder if it was affected by the Shenai incident that made everyone afraid to go out? In short, the 2 of them had been wandering around the streets for more than 10 minutes, and they didn't see many lively places. Well, it's better to ask someone. I originally wanted to glean some information from the conversations of passers-by, but now I did it in desperation. Narashikaku had no choice but to walk towards an old woman setting up a stall at the street corner. Older people should know more things. Hello grandma. Are you here to play, young man? Do you want to buy something as a souvenir? Well, that's what grandma is like. Narashikaku kept smiling as much as possible, carefully considered his words and asked, we are the ninjas of Konoha village. We have been entrusted by the Kingdom of the Sea to investigate the Kamigakure incident. May I ask you? Go away. Who would have thought that before she finished her sentence, the old lady who was kind just a second ago suddenly changed her expression. Don't hang around in front of the old lady without buying anything. The two of them even grabbed the small objects on the stall without moving for a moment, looking like they were going to smash them over if they didn't leave. Okay, let's leave now. Don't be angry. The older one and the younger one hurriedly ran 10 meters away amidst the old lady's scolding. It wasn't until they saw her putting down the things in her hands that they looked at each other with a wry smile, with deep confusion and helplessness on their faces. Her youngest son disappeared not long ago due to the Shenai incident. If you ask this, she will definitely curse. A middle-aged uncle carrying a hoe suddenly said something next to him. It seemed that he must have overheard their conversation when he passed by just now. Oh, uncle, do you know the news about the Shenai incident? This is really an unexpected bonus. Oh, I know it. How could I not know it? The uncle let out a long sigh after hearing this and sighed to the two people following him as he walked. Did you see the island in the distance? That is Ghost Island, which is the area where the richest fisher is in the nearby waters. But there is a terrifying legend that has been circulated among us fishermen since ancient times. Chapter 48 Giant Shadow Under the Sea. According to the clues collected yesterday, most of those Shenai incidents occurred near Ghost World Island. After offering to pay some money, Narashikaku easily rented a fishing boat and took the students to Onage Island early the next morning. Although we had a small meeting last night, however, considering that class has been going smoothly since the mission, and this incident is full of weirdness, for the safety of the students, while punting the boat forward, Narashikaku took the trouble to remind them again, this is our first overseas mission, so everyone must be careful. The ocean is different from the land. There is no telling what is hidden under this endless sea, and no matter what strange things happen, it is possible. Yes. X3 creak wow. As the only adult among the four, it is of course the teacher's responsibility to steer and hold the pole. Fortunately, it was still sunny today, and even Narashikaku, who had never operated a boat before, was able to quickly master the trick of punting. Speaking of which, I saw the islands in Gaogang yesterday, and felt they were quite close. But now I actually set off by boat, and found out how far away they were. It turns out that not only Wang Shen will be beaten to death, but Wang He will also be exhausted as a teacher. Whose ship is that? How dare you go out to sea? A few people slowly gathered at the port, and as they pointed, more passing fishermen joined in. It's from my family. Last night, a stranger came suddenly and said he wanted to rent a boat. He said he was here to investigate the Shenai incident. Ah, I know. It's an adult with a child with strange eyes, right? They were asking me for news yesterday. I heard they are ninjas. I recognize their outfits. They seem to be from the Leaf Village. Konoha Village? Isn't that from the Land of Fire? You actually came so far to investigate the incident for us. There are indeed many good people in this world. That's right, such news gradually spread among the crowd. Although some people still questioned their abilities, more people still held expectations. After all, it is too difficult to live as a fisherman, but dare not go to sea. People from Konoha. While everyone was expressing their opinions, an inconspicuous man in the crowd reached out and lowered his hat, stared at the boat getting further and further away for a while, and then left quietly. Little May on the calm sea, the boat kept moving forward for almost an hour before finally approaching the edge of Onage Island. Looking at the jagged island in front of it, Quan, who had always been lively, spoke in a rare hesitant voice. You said. What they said about the monsters on Ghost Island is it true? Senju Mayuki turned to look at her, and Quan immediately put on a smile at him. But this smile, how should I say it? It's a bit far-fetched. Then he looked at her little hands tightly grasping the corner of her clothes. Aren't you afraid? What I fear most is the sudden silence in the air. Even the sound of seawater lapping against the hull seemed to be silent for a moment. Who is scared? The little girl who looked like a quail just now suddenly became furious. He saw his two friends looking at him with such surprised expressions. Even Mr. Shikaku. That's just a legend. How could I be afraid of that kind of thing? While retorting, he released his hand holding Senju Mayuki's clothes and even deliberately sat farther away from him, as if this could show that he was really not afraid. The people here must have little knowledge, so they say that some unseen big fish and the like are monsters. Yes, that's definitely the case. Zio Zenyu, if you say that, you are actually scared. You are too embarrassed to say it, so you are deliberately using me as a shield. It's okay. Zio Nazi became more and more arrogant as she spoke, and in the end she even patted her breasts confidently and said, "Don't worry, little brother. You will stay with me when the time comes, and my sister will definitely protect you." Haha, ha. Senju Mayuki and Hyuga Takuma looked at each other and then looked away in tacit agreement at the same time. The acting is very pompous, but people are so stubborn, so let's save some face for the little fairy. Spring, hash. Hey, what do you two mean? Are you doubting what I said? Hehe, okay, stop making trouble. Fortunately, Narushikaku spoke up in time to relieve the embarrassment. Ahead is Giji Island. I heard from the fishermen that there are reefs everywhere around here. Please be vigilant. Yes. As soon as they got down to business, the three students immediately returned to their serious state. Izumi and Hyuga Takuma silently began to extract chakra. After all, my teacher is really not a qualified boat operator, so once the bottom of the boat hits the rocks, he can jump out and stand on the sea. Whoa. I don't know if it's because there are really too many reefs underneath. It seems that starting from entering a certain dividing line, the originally calm sea began to have waves one after another. Something's wrong. Shikaku-sensei. In less than a minute, the waves on the sea were so big that the boat began to rock violently. Fortunately, none of them were impetuous, and they quickly used chakra to secure themselves to the boat amidst the violent shaking. But seeing that the waves were so big that they were about to overturn the boat in the next second, it was difficult for them to even stand still, let alone move forward. There is obviously only a small sea breeze, but something is wrong with the waves. Thinking of this, Senju Mayuki suddenly shouted loudly to Hinata Takuma, "Look under the water. I don't think there should be such sudden waves if it's just a reef." Hinata Takuma is also extremely smart, and she immediately understood what he meant. Roll your eyes. That is. With just one glance, Hinata Takuma's face was obviously shocked. Seeing this, Senju Mayuki quickly asked, "Is there something going on?" "That's right." Hinata Takuma firmly grasped the side of the ship to stabilize his body and followed something below him closely with his Byakugan. "There is something that looks like a mollusk down there. It is very huge. These abnormal currents are caused by that thing. No, the waves are too big." Narushikaku, who had been struggling to hold the oar, suddenly shouted, "You should seize the time to gather more chakra. Once the boat cannot hold up, we must abandon the boat. Abandon the ship. Keep yourselves safe." Under the emergency situation, Senju Mayuki didn't care too much, just left these words and turned over and got into the sea. True Moon. "Little Zenyu. What are you doing? Little Zenyu. Danger." Hinata Takuma, who had sharp eyes and quick hands, grabbed Izumi, who was also about to jump down, and then quickly explained in her questioning and angry eyes, "Have you forgotten? In addition to ice, he also has the ability to control water. Our abilities at sea are not as flexible as his. If you go down now, you will only cause trouble for him." But Takuma is right. Although he was very reluctant, at this time Narushikaku also had to admit that his shadow ability was indeed of no practical use in this turbulent sea. "So I had to try my best to stabilize the boat while trying to persuade. We all know that Zenyu is a very good and intelligent child. I believe that he is not someone who will suddenly act irrationally. All we can do at this time is trust him and be ready to support him at any time." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Who to Rely on their own. About an hour ago, Jiro Island. The figures in the forest flashed by, and soon a man with green hair and glasses in a white coat rushed to a building and knelt down on one knee behind a strange-looking man. Lord Orochimaru, I just received news that several ninjas from Konoha village have arrived. It is said that they have accepted the commission from the Kingdom of the Sea and came to investigate the Kamigakure incident. Haha, I already know. Orochimaru's voice was slightly hoarse, and his snake-like vertical pupils stared at the sea in the distance. God knows, have you found out which ninjas are coming? This. Shianzi showed a hint of embarrassment when he heard this, then lowered his head and whispered, I'm sorry for my incompetence, but they have a high sense of precaution. They only know that there is an adult and 3 children coming. Hehe, this adult is not a simple character. Orochimaru may have just said it unintentionally, but Tenchi, who had his head lowered, looked ugly for a moment after hearing it. Damn, he has only been here for a short time, and his intelligence capabilities are actually better than mine. A hoarse and suppressed scream suddenly came from the room next to it. After listening to it for a while, Shianzi suddenly looked at Orochimaru with surprise. This voice. Orochimaru-sama, what are you talking about? Haha, just a little experiment. The screams became more painful and struggling. However, the 2 men outside the room just listened. Not only did neither of them waver in any way, Orochimaru's expression even looked very comfortable, as if he was listening to some beautiful music. It wasn't until the sounds in the room completely disappeared that Orochimaru suddenly licked his tongue and whispered, it looks like it's almost done. Do you want to go in and take a look together? After saying that, without waiting for Shianzi to answer, he turned around and walked towards the house with the door closed. Yes. Although he was still thinking about the ninjas of Konoha village, he didn't dare to refuse Orochimaru's invitation, so he had to get up and follow him. The furnishings in the room were like a warehouse for sundries. Orochimaru, who came in first, was looking at the girl lying on the ground with interest. Ha. Ha. Perhaps because of the pain just now was too severe, the girl's eyes were wide open, but her pupils were obviously in a state of dilation, and she did not respond to the movement around her. The ground beneath her was covered with traces of struggle. Hehe. Listening to the girl's rapid breathing, the smile on Orochimaru's face became even more evil. You're lucky. She is the only one who survived among the 10 people who received the curse seal. It can be considered a small gain before leaving. Leave. Shianzi was obviously stunned for a moment. Yes, there is no reason to stay here anymore. But our research has not yet. The research institute here is at your disposal. It has no meaning to me anymore. After saying that, Orochimaru glanced at the girl underground for the last time, then turned and walked out. Crack. A small hand suddenly grabbed the trouser leg. Orochimaru stopped, turned around, and saw the girl looking up at him, while holding onto her trembling body. Why do you do this to me? I have always respected you so much. When she asked this question, was there pain on the girl's face? Or sad? Hehe. Orochimaru slowly leaned down, stretched out a hand to hold her chin. Because you lack too much, whether it's the motivation to thirst for power, obsession, or hatred, it's all not enough. However, just because you can survive, it is somewhat valuable. Speaking of this, Orochimaru's face suddenly showed an evil smile. How about it? Do you want to come with me? I'm giving you a chance to choose now. Shianzi next to him also had a sinister smile on his lips. What a bad man. He is obviously a student of his faith, but he can do such a thing. But yes, only such a man is a suitable partner for me. It seems that I'm no better than him. The girl looked directly at Orochimaru, her eyes trembling due to her inner struggle. Orochimaru was not in a hurry, he still just looked at her like that, patiently waiting for her to tell her answer. Plop plop. The heartbeat is getting faster and faster. This man is not kidding himself. The girl's eyes suddenly became sharp, and then she turned away and stopped looking at him. It seems that this is your choice. There was no disappointment in Orochimaru's voice, as if he wasn't surprised at all, and then he stood up and left naturally. Lord Orochimaru, you. Science saw this, and hurriedly chased him out. Wori was so busy watching jokes, just now that he almost forgot about the important matter. Did this Diomeo just say he was going to run away? Seeing that you have always been relatively loyal, I will give you one more piece of advice. Before I leave, the sound from outside was faintly transmitted into the house. Although I hate hearing this sound now, my brain is uncontrollable and wants to hear what he is saying again. Please speak. Although it's just a student team led by a Jonin. But, hehe, if you underestimate that Jounin, you may pay a heavy price. A lonely boat is sailing smoothly on the sea. Seen from this height, it looks like an insignificant dot. Although it is impossible to see the people on the boat here, who else dares to go out to sea alone at this time, except the Konoha ninja who came to investigate? Oh. After Shianzi heard this, his expression immediately changed with uncertainty. From the first time Orochimaru mentioned that Jounin, he had already taken a liking to him. It was not easy for someone like him to become one. He must have had a few tricks up his sleeve. Is this guy trying to run away because he's afraid of that Jounin? But as soon as this idea appeared, he denied it himself. As one of the three ninjas, he still knew very well how strong Orochimaru was. What's more, that Jounin looked to be in his 20s at most. He didn't believe that there would be a ninja in Konoha village who was stronger than Orochimaru at such a young age. Hehe. He didn't care what Orochimaru was thinking about. He just chuckled. Just when he was about to start, he suddenly stopped and looked into the house. Then he saw a small snake swimming down his arm and crawling towards the house. Soon he heard a desperate cry from inside again. No, don't. Ah. It wasn't until the sounds in the room gradually disappeared that Orochimaru smiled with satisfaction and then left without even looking at Tenchi again, using the teleportation technique. On the spot, Shianzi watched silently until Orochimaru's figure disappeared from sight. Then he completely tore off his disguise, with extreme dissatisfaction and anger on his face. Damn guy. You left as soon as you said you were leaving. Leaving such a big study here. What do you want me to do? Gritting his teeth, he looked at the small boat that was gradually turning towards the direction of Ghost World Island. Shianzi's face kept flashing a look of struggle. How to do? What should I do? Stand your ground. But Orochimaru's words just now were like a thorn in his heart. As a medical ninja who specializes in scientific research, how can he not know how much he weighs? Then choose to run away like Orochimaru? But such a large research institute, which spent countless efforts to collect scientific research materials and research results, just gave up. What a joke. Shianzi's expression suddenly turned ferocious. He gritted his teeth and ran wildly in the direction of Ghost World Island. The backing mountain will fall and everyone will run. It is better to ask for help from anyone than to ask for it from yourself. I also have Yumibozu. As long as the operation is done properly, it is not certain who will win today. Chapter 50 Underwater Tiger. Back to the present. After entering the water, Senju Mayuki first felt a chill all over his body, and his ears buzzed for a moment, but soon he separated a large piece of water from the seawater and wrapped himself in it. Although this still cannot offset the fluctuations of the waves, it can at least block the invasion of seawater, allowing him to focus all his thoughts on what he should do. See it. Through the sunlight shining into the seawater, I quickly saw it dozens of meters underwater. 1. Lump. Water trough? Slime? Question mark? Wotama. Isn't this Naruto? Why do you still have this thing? Even if it's big, it's still transparent. Fortunately it was daytime, otherwise we might not have been able to discover this thing quickly. The giant slime didn't seem to notice the child jumping into the water and was still swallowing a huge amount of water upwards. Psychic beast, or wild. Such a thought flashed through his mind, but the situation was urgent, and he had no time to think about this problem now. He plunged his body downwards and rushed downwards quickly. Whether it's someone deliberately causing trouble or a wild creature, this guy must be dealt with immediately. WC, so fast. With the ability to control water, Senju Mayuki knew that he must have an advantage over ordinary people in the water, but he still didn't expect that his speed would be so fast. He could cover a distance of tens of meters in just a few swings. Heh, PFFT, heh, PFFT. Hey, that's too much. I had already reached it, but this guy was still focused on spitting out blisters. Damn, ignore me, right? Just in time. It's also convenient for me to save my ultimate moves, but what's the best trick to use when riding a horse? When I looked at it just now, I just thought this guy was huge. Unexpectedly, when I came to it and compared it, I realized that this thing was not only big, it was as tall as a dozen floors. Usai Saros? Wouldn't it be like having a thorn stuck in this big guy? Use freezing? It's not impossible, but using this trick in the sea. Heh, PFFT, heh, PFFT. The water flow above became more and more violent, and a huge whirlpool was forming. Boil. I don't have time to think about this anymore. Let's talk about it after we finish it. He moved his body forward and leaned forward, stretched out his hands, and pressed them on the slime. This feels so soft, like silicone. No, freeze. The exclamation point indicates the output intensity of mental power. Click. The soft silicone instantly turns into ice as hard as steel. As expected, some of it will be evaporated by the surrounding seawater, but this level is still acceptable. Because it is underwater, part of the low temperature of the ice is inevitably absorbed by the seawater. Fortunately, Senju Mayuki has now achieved a certain level of control over his freezing ability. With full control, he can still control the direction of freezing and range. Kaka. First it was a piece the size of a wash basin, then it was the size of a table. Under the full output of Senju Mayuki, the frozen area quickly spread to be larger than the house, and it was still spreading outward along the slime's body at a speed visible to the naked eye. Heh, poof, heh. I don't know if it was a slow reaction or if I was really working too hard. It wasn't until almost half of the frozen area was covered that the slime suddenly stopped spewing water. At the same time, Naruto and others who had been struggling on the sea immediately discovered that the current that was forming a giant whirlpool suddenly weakened. Roll your eyes. Hinata Takuma, who had just rested for a while, immediately opened his eyes and looked underwater again without waiting for anyone to say anything. Shikaku-sensei, Maya has successfully stopped the creature underwater and has frozen more than half of it. It is good. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this. Although it was very embarrassing, it seemed that this incident really depended on Zaos and Zuki alone. What happened? On Ghost Island, Shiansky, who was hiding in a hidden place and observing all this, suddenly became ugly. What on earth is that guy Yumabozu doing? While cursing fiercely, he made a seal with one hand and felt it. The next second, he suddenly looked towards the direction of the boat with a face full of shock. Who is it? You actually gave Master Yumabo. Damn it, I was obviously keeping an eye on that Jonin, and I obviously didn't see any movement from him. Although he has long known that he cannot defeat the opponent in one wave, it is too shocking that such careful preparations cannot even consume the opponent. In this case, a vicious light flashed behind the glasses. Don't think you can feel at ease like this. In this sea, my lord Yumabo is invincible. After saying that, he formed another seal and passed an instruction out. Crack. Almost at the same time, Senju Mayuki, who was using all his strength under the water and had frozen more than 3/4 of the giant slime, suddenly had a starting realization. In his perception, the ice that had been spreading upward suddenly lost the touch of gel, and the ice cubes that were originally submerged in the water began to show signs of floating up. Although I don't know what happened, there must have been an accident. Thinking of this, he immediately controlled the water mass to swim upward quickly. The ability to control water allows him to greatly reduce oxygen consumption in the water, but after such a long time, it has almost reached its limit. And more importantly, after outputting so much mental power all at once, his brain was already starting to feel dizzy. Whoa ha. True moon. Matsuki-chan. The place where it emerged was already 100 meters away from the boat. However, due to the loss of power, the sea surface had basically returned to calm at this time, so Naruto and others discovered him immediately. Izumi, who had been anxious for a long time, jumped off the boat and ran towards him on the water. Call. After taking a few deep breaths, which slightly relieved the dizziness caused by excessive mental energy consumption. Senju Mayuki also used chakra to stand on the sea, and then ran quickly towards the direction of the boat. But there is a large piece of ice below that will float up immediately. Zio Zenaiu, you. I'm fine. Get out of here first. I refused Kwan's support. Now is not the time to be gentle. Crash. Not long after the two of them ran out, a huge piece of ice that could almost be called a small iceberg suddenly appeared, causing waves that caused the boat to sway from side to side. Fortunately, the wave passed in just one breath, and Senju Mayuki quickly returned to the boat despite her discomfort. Teacher Shikaku, I feel something is wrong. That thing seems to have the ability to actively separate. I was about to freeze it all just now, but it still escaped. It does have the ability to separate, but it didn't escape. Hinata Takuma, who had been keeping his eyes open, suddenly stared at the sea where the ice was and said, "It's coming out." Several people were startled and hurriedly followed his line of sight, and sure enough they saw a jelly-like thing suddenly appearing next to the huge ice block. Puff, puff. Just like a transparent sponge that can absorb unlimited water. At first, it tried to wrap the ice in it, but after finding that it was useless, it began to absorb seawater and soon expanded again into a giant creature dozens of meters tall. The other three people in Buhang were shocked by this exaggerated scene, and Senju Mayuki almost vomited out a mouthful of old blood. I'm so excited when I step on my horse. What does this mean? Coupled with the fact that I was as fierce as a tiger in one operation just now, the actual output was less than 5. Grumble. However, reality is not anime, and the big guys on the opposite side will not stop because of their shock. I saw it open its mouth, and a ball of water quickly condensed in its mouth, and then, puff, kerfuffle. Narashikaku shouted loudly, and the 4 people hurriedly left the boat. It's just a ball of saliva in its mouth, but to a normal human, it's a giant block of water larger than a small boat. PFFT. Although it didn't hit, the waves rising into the sky still lifted the boat several meters high. Puff puff puff. It's like there is a real lack of virtue. The sea surface that had just returned to calm was once again smashed by the giant slime spit after ball, creating waves that soared into the sky one after another. Shikaku sensei, this big guy's whole body is almost made of water. Due to the long and frequent rolling of his eyes, Hinata Takuma's face has shown obvious fatigue, but in this situation, he can only continue to grit his teeth and persevere. I can see there is a spirit-like core in its body. That should be its weakness. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.